time to take control of your future starting now, and we're doing it live. Hi, we're the Stidhams, and our goal is to help you get self-directed. It's the tax-free income that will shape your legacy. It's wealth, time, and the freedom you deserve. What you're about to learn will enable you to make confident and strategic moves. It means gaining complete control to invest in what you want when you want. We've helped thousands of people just like you. And if they can do it, you can too. So we hope you're ready, because it's about time that your money started working for you. And we're so excited that you chose us to show you how.
Starting right now.
Good evening. Gosh, I'm always either too high or too low. What is the deal? Here we are. Welcome back. Love to see everyone in the chat. Ooh, good. Hey, everyone.
Chat started already?
Chat has started already. We got Veronica. We got Jesus. Yeah, we can't tell if you're tuning in unless you jump in the chat. So we hope that you will.
You sound a little low, sweetheart. I don't know if it's to everybody else. You sound a little low to me.
Am I low now?
You're not.
Ooh, all right. Turn it up. Turn it up tonight. We've got Gill. We went over what's the goal, right? We talked about sometimes that people have a hard time defining what their goal is. And if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. So we went through how to better define your goal. And we talked about a few people, maybe profiles of people and the types of goals and common flaws that we see in approaching your strategy towards building wealth, crushing debt, and achieving true freedom. So tonight we're going to talk about Gill. Gill was the guy who got in trouble a little bit with the holidays, and he got a little riddled in debt. And so he wanted to know, how can I get rid of this as fast as possible? What do we call it? Santa
syndrome.
Santa syndrome. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He got the Santa syndrome over the holidays. And so if that's you and you had Santa syndrome through the holidays, then tune in and see what we did for Gill and how he was able to crush over $22,000 in debt in just over 15 months. That's pretty incredible. Right. So we'll be walking through that in just a moment.
So what's interesting about Gill, I think he's pretty consistent with a lot of people I meet with, and when we're talking about velocity banking. My objective for today is a little bit different than normal. We're not just going to jump right into the numbers and reducing debt. It's really more about the early conversations that we're having and how I get to the point of, oh, this is the answer, or this is the goal, or this is where we need to kind of proceed. But I want to just kind of walk through what Gill's original thought process was in stepping into this and where we ended up once we kind of peel back some of those layers. And what I'm hoping people leave with is when you're thinking about either doing velocity banking or getting on a call with me to talk through your velocity banking, these are some of the same questions that you can ask yourself. Because I think it will also help everyone kind of identify where some of the opportunities are, or because velocity banking can be confusing, there are some stages and steps that people, I think, think they're doing velocity banking, but in truth, they're probably not. So just kind of talking through some of those areas. Let's go.
Yeah, and I think that it's probably worth saying, see, now I'm really too low. What is going on? Okay, if you're new here, this is how you get your numbers together. So if you haven't done that, you'll go to selfdirected.info/live, and there's a link there. You just tell us where to send it, and we will send you our free velocity banking worksheet, and that's where you can get your numbers together. Now, why is it important to have your numbers together, Donnell? Why is it important that people do this? Because some people have kind of maybe their own system of how they do their numbers, but oftentimes you find that they are not correct, right?
Well, and here's the thing. You don't need our workbook to determine your numbers. Like, let's be honest about that.
Yeah.
However, if you're wondering, what you should come to a meeting with me, already having assessed, one of my first questions, aside from what's the goal, is going to be, what are your numbers? And so if you think you understand what your numbers are, just because you think you understand what they are doesn't necessarily make it true. So this is just really a tool for you to kind of peel back some of those layers and understand where your money is actually going. The better you know where your money's going, the better our conversation will be around what some of the actions that you need to take may be. If you already have those answers, whether you use, let's call them out, whether you use Christie's sheet or Denzel's sheet or someone else's sheet to identify
Or you
your
have your
numbers,
own, right?
yeah, or
Yeah.
have your own. Maybe you're like me. Hold on, I'll pull it up. I'll show it to you. Maybe you're like me and you have your own way of keeping your numbers, right? There is nothing digital about what it is I do. But if you ask
Yeah.
me what my numbers are, I can go to page whatever it is and tell you what that might be. And that's just me. And I'm 50 years old. I wouldn't call myself ancient, but I know I function the way like I'm ancient or something. But the bottom line is it's my way. It's my and I'm saying all of this to say I know my wife is going to come at me in a minute here. But the bottom line is my way, it happens to work, right? It's fun.
Yeah, no, it does. It does work, and it doesn't matter how you do it as long as you have the numbers together. And that's really what that's really the important part so that you can what do you
Because let's go there though. Let's go there. Here's the thing. Because I keep my numbers the way that I do, if my wife happens to ask, "Hey, where are we on this?" It's kind of difficult for her to understand because I'm going to say, "Well, I don't know, but it's in my book." Whereas if we did keep some type of digital version of this, she wouldn't have to ask, "Where are we on this?" She
Yeah.
could go to that digital version
Mhm.
and identify where we are herself. So there's a win-win in converting from your old ways into something more digital. I fully understand that. Doesn't mean I've done it, but I fully understand
Well, now it's on record because now it's recorded.
that.
Love that for me. Another reason why this is so important, though, honestly, is because even this example, he started off with negative cash flow. When he did his
Right.
numbers, he had negative cash flow,
That is correct.
$40 in negative cash flow. And we're going to talk about why that even happened and where the doing a proper assessment on your figures helps you understand where your leverage is. And I think that's the most important part.
Right.
Our conferences start. We were talking about that we're going on. We're calling it the Financial Freedom Tour, and we had one of them was a local conference this weekend,
We
and it
kicked it
was
off.
yep we kicked it off, and it was interesting to see just the dynamics of different people that had collected into this space and were there to learn, and they're all there with a common goal, like, is this something that I can leverage? Is this a vehicle or an opportunity that I could leverage to help me on my wealth building journey, right? But I
Right.
think even in situations like that, at the end of the day, after they learn a new strategy or after they uh, learn more about how to use this particular vehicle, they're going, okay, well, now how do I get in? How can I take advantage of this? And in order to do that, you got to know your numbers, right?
That's
You
it.
have to understand where your leverage is and where your pivot points are. And so that's where even a concept like velocity banking, some people might say, well, I I'm not worried about the debt that I have and I don't care about crushing it. It's That's not even the point. The point is understanding leverage and how powerful leverage can be. Why would you pay more on something than you had to, right?
Right.
Why wouldn't you use that extra capital to be able to fuel or fund your wealth building journey? And so whatever those vehicles are, understanding what it's actually costing you to continue functioning in the way that we're encouraged to function, really. When it all comes down to it, we have this permission slip to make minimum payments. We have a permission slip to have low cash flow at the end of the month, and to, even if you're making 200K a year, the most common amount of cash flow that the majority of people have is,
Somewhere between $500 and $1,000 a month.
that's crazy to think, right? So somebody who has maybe a lower income is thinking like, I only have $500 a month in cash flow. Well, that could happen if you had 4 times that amount of income. We've seen it both ways.
Yep.
So this is a pretty powerful example because I think that it's kind of a middle ground, but it doesn't matter because this will show evidence that knowing your numbers is important. So you ready to jump in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right, let me find it. And
Frankie's in the
hey,
building. Frankie's in the
hey,
building.
Frankie. All right. So that's good to see. All right, here we go. All right. Let's get into it.
So today the objective was mainly just kind of run through a velocity banking example, but in addition to that, just kind of speak to some of the actions that happen early on in that process. And so as we discussed, we're going to basically revisit a gentleman that we talked about last week or whatever day that was. And it's Gill. And Gill is 42 years of age. And the objective is to use velocity banking to get out of debt. He's gotten himself into a situation over the holidays. And over the holiday, oh, I guess I can raise it up a little bit. Over the holidays, he got himself in the situation where he spent a little bit much on others around him and for himself. He's 42 years of age. And in just again, peeling back some of the layers and asking a few different questions around how, when, how much, at what point in time, what is it you're actually doing, we were able to come to some different conclusions that allowed us to also be able to focus on how to get him out of this debt and get out of it quickly. And so, just to kind of I'll call it,
Yeah, we'll give him a recap.
yeah, reimagine or kind of recap around what velocity banking is and what it is not. Velocity banking, the thought process behind velocity banking is this: all of your income, all of the income that you make for the month, normally goes on to your checking account. In normal situations, that's what's happening here. Normally, your money goes here, and then from here, you pay bills, you pay your debts, right? Well, the thought process around velocity banking is this: instead of your income going directly into your checking account and then you're paying bills from there, we focus on identifying a vehicle that you can use to pay debts from. And maybe it's a credit card, maybe it's a home equity line of credit, maybe it's a personal line of credit. The bottom line is, oh, I see what's happening there. I thought that was you and sound effects. That's me.
Oh.
I'm like, what is that sound?
I'm like, dang, he's like beating that mic up. Okay.
Exactly. So I'm like chewing on it or something.
Right.
So your income comes in, and the thought process is once it hits your checking account, it immediately goes on to the debt tool. The piece that people miss as it relates to velocity banking is all focus is here. Velocity banking is all about this piece. It is not about this. It's not even about how much cash flow you have. The focus is here. If you pay attention here and do the minimums everywhere else, if you focus on putting all of your income onto whatever that debt tool is that you're going to use and then pay the minimums from everywhere else, you will crush debt pretty quickly. And specifically as it relates to Gill, this is his personal situation. So we're talking about a gentleman who brings in about $6,200 a month in income. He states he's negative in cash flow by about $40. So about 6240 is what his expenses are when you add all of them up. And then in total debt, we're talking about 22,000. And so therefore, ultimately his cash flow is zero. Specifically, his cash flow is negative. And as I started just asking simple questions, I said, okay, income 6,200, and I get it in total. Your expenses are 6,240, but let's kind of talk specifically and let's identify where money is actually going. So I want to separate expenses and debts, meaning I want to separate the monthly payment that you're paying on these credit cards or whatever these bills are and your normal expenses. Because 9 times out of 10, your normal expenses, and we're talking light, gas, cell phone, those won't change. The opportunity is usually in the minimum payments that we're making on these numbers here. And so it was just, again, the objective was to peel back the layers a little bit. So what I wanted to better understand is what are the total debts that you have, meaning what are those whole dollar amounts? And so, okay, again, holiday bill, holiday bill, holiday bill, holiday bill. So what happens is he's got himself into a situation between the majority of the debts that he have and put himself in a position where he's got in total about 22,000 in debt. So when we talked, his main objective was to get rid of those. And again, my question was, okay, out of those monthly payments that you're paying, I guess let me move that over. Out of those monthly payments that you're paying, how much of that is basically, I'll call it expenses that won't change? I mean, regardless of whether or not you're doing infinite bank or velocity banking or not, what are those regular expenses that you have? So in total, when you add up his regular expenses, we're talking about $2,495 out of that 6240. $2,495 or just regular, is regular debt. And so as he kind of mentioned, his cash flow was okay. I've got an income of 6,200 coming in, expenses of 6,240 coming out, with leaves him a negative cash flow of $40. And again, we're still too high level. We need to dig into this number a little bit better to understand why. And in
Well,
actually using our sheet, he used our sheet to kind of determine what those expenses were. And so when we started going through the tabs of the sheet and we hit that expense tab,
well, hold on.
yes, ma'am.
Because this is where a lot of people learn that they actually are
Right.
operating at a negative cash flow. So, even more important to have your numbers together and have your true numbers together, because a lot of people have their aha moment right here where they go, oh, dang, I didn't even realize that this whole time for months, probably for years, we've been operating at a negative cash flow. And that's a scary realization, but it is very common. We see that a lot.
Right. And so when we moved over to the debts page, this is where it all started to come to light. And there's some information here that you don't understand yet, but I'll dig into it.
Well, one is that his beard connects, and we've got that all over in the comments.
Oh,
So
we're
we
gonna do
just
this
need to,
today too.
we just,
We're gonna do this today. This is where we are. Okay. Okay. I thought we had moved beyond this, but clearly we have not.
we haven't, and the chat
Okay.
hasn't. So
All right. All
there's
right.
that.
And again,
Yeah.
when you look in the corners, it looks like
It's getting
it
there.
looks like I'm fine. But the truth is I'm not. It's just bare skin right there. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. It can get chapped sometimes. So I get it. I
You know what?
get
It's
it.
a pause. It's a
And
pause.
here's the thing, if I let it grow, I could cover it. I think that's what my dad does. I think in truth, my dad is the same way, but when you look at him, it's all nice. And I think what he does is he let these ends grow and,
Yeah. Well, maybe that's what he's doing. We really don't know. He could. That could all just be
nah, that's
wrong.
fresh. That's fresh. That's
Yeah.
fresh. I bet it glistens when he turns sideways.
Yeah. Yeah. He probably moisturizes it. It's good.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay. So
He's a
we had to
cartoon.
dig
He probably
into
does
the debts.
anything.
Right. We had to dig into the debts. And so when you start asking about, okay, what makes up that $22,000? And what we learn is it's majority credit cards, but I still need to get a bit more specific than that. Let's talk through each individual credit card. So what we needed to do was go into the debts page and just kind of talk through what they are. And what I learned was these were the minimums that he is paying on each of those credit cards. And here's the immediate thing that jumped out to me. You're telling me this Best Buy card with a balance of 44.50, I don't know if you can read that, but the balance of 44.50, you're telling me the minimum payment is exactly $200? Most minimum payments have or kind of, I'll call it weird. They're a percentage of the total. And it just was odd to me that these were the minimums that he was putting on his cards. And so and here's what we learned. What we learn is these minimums were the minimums he chose to pay. Meaning, let me get to it. So this Best Buy card, the actual balance is 125. I'm sorry, the actual minimum payment is 125. He decided to pay $200 a month. So let's think about it. If he's $40 in negative cash flow and he's choosing to pay $200 on this Best Buy card that he owes 44.50, the minimum is 125. If he just simply paid the minimum on that card, is he in negative cash flow? And the short answer to that question is no. But I go back to we think we're doing the right thing, meaning, hey, I'm doing velocity banking, and yeah, I know the bill is 125, but I'm going to pay $200 anyway because I've got the money to be able to do it. I make decent income, so why shouldn't I put a little extra on the bill because it will help pay the bill off? But what happens is when you apply these extra payments to the minimum due, what ends up happening is you're putting yourself in a position where what looks like negative cash flow, meaning in total, he was paying $850 on these individual debts when he should have only been paying $591. And if he was only paying the $591, that's $259 difference. So that's $259 in additional cash flow that he's not even paying attention to. How quickly could some of these debts be paid off if he focused all of that $259 in one direction? So that's step one. So step one is, you know what? Let's truly understand what the minimum is. I didn't ask you what you're paying every month. What's the minimum due? What's the minimum due on each one of these debts? And what that does is that allows us to understand if you add up all the minimums and you just simply do the bare minimums, what's left over as it relates to cash flow. So in just having that conversation, we went from being negative 40 in cash flow all the way to what is that, 240 difference, $219 positive, and just having that discussion. And then what also came out of this was, well, it just dawned on me. I also have this Acorn account. This Acorn account where I'm focused on trying to build wealth over time. I'm trying to put money away so that I don't have to work for the rest of my life. I'm 42 years old. Yeah, I've got a 401k with my company, but in addition to that, I'm putting additional dollars away to be able to build wealth. And I said, well, how long have you been doing that? And I'm going to share this because I know there are a lot of people like this. There's a lot of people that pay attention to us who are also doing something similar. And it's that what's the gentleman, the Wall Street Trapper? What it is, he participates in what the Wall Street Trapper is doing. And so he's taking that $100 a month and that $100, that $1,000 a month in his Acorn account, and he's really trying to focus on growing it on his own. And he's doing a pretty good job. I think he started in July. So he's been putting away $1,000 a month since July. And $1,000 a month over 6 months, that's $6,000. And I want to say he's got maybe 7,500 in his account. So he's not doing bad. But the point is this: if we're talking about where's the cash flow, $259 was stuck in paying extra payments on my debts, and then there's another $1,000 a month being put away into an Acorn account that's focused on his future, but it's also impacting his ability to pay off debt. So my challenge was this: what if we take this dollar amount, and I'm not saying get rid of your Acorn account. I'm not saying liquidate your Acorn account. What I'm saying is maybe we pause it for a few months. Let's pause it and let's get yourself out of debt. And so in adding these dollar amounts together plus that negative cash flow, what we learn is he actually has cash flow of about $1,219. What did I do? I didn't do anything. But what I think what I'm capable of doing is taking a 10,000 foot view and just asking a few more questions. Not just, hey, I'm in negative cash flow. Oh, well, I guess we can't do velocity banking. We need to focus on debt snowball. It's where is the money actually going? Because let's say I didn't identify this. There are also situations where it may make sense to pause your 401k contributions for a minute. Or we identify that not only do you have a budget where you and your wife like to go out and eat on the weekends, but you also have an entertainment budget. Well, why couldn't you combine the two and save money there? Meaning there's these little bits and pieces where when you're in the midst of it, it's kind of hard to see. But when we have that 10,000 foot view and you're able to look down and realize, man, I have money going elsewhere that maybe it doesn't need to. So this $1,219 in cash flow is what we're going to put to work. And so now let's talk about, when we're doing velocity banking, it's about the debt tool. What debt tool are we going to use? What's the debt tool we're going to put in play? Take this cash flow of $1,219 and put it to work. What's the vehicle? Now, he doesn't have a HELOC. He does not have a personal line of credit. What he has are a bunch of credit cards. So let's identify what credit card that might be that we're going to use to be able to do velocity banking. And then kind of looking at the detail, we've taking a look at just the interest rates on each one of these cards. None of them are good. But again, over the holidays, he got himself in trouble. And he got himself in trouble because he picked up this 0% card from Bank of America and he ran up the total, making sure he blessed everyone over Christmas. Well, I immediately identified this as being maybe a potential debt tool because I wanted to understand how many months he had left. Well, he just got it. He just got it right before the holidays. So he still has about 22 months available on this card at 0%. So what better card to use to be able to consolidate this other debt? So the debt tool we chose was this Bank of America card, and kind of looking at what that looks like. The balance on that card, the balance on that card is $7,200. I'm sorry, the limit on that card is $7,200. It has a balance almost maxed out of about $6,600, which means there's room. There's room on the card between the limit and the balance, and he makes $6,200 a month. So here's where I'm going to make some assumptions. Because it's Bank of America, and because I know how Bank of America works, and because of the relationship that I have with this client, we have already established that all of his expenses and debts can be paid through his credit card, to include his rent or his mortgage, to include his mortgage. I'm sorry. So his mortgage and the rest of his expenses can be paid through this credit card because he has the ability to link this credit card to his checking account. So I'm not going to go into those details. If you want to know more, we can talk about more when I'm done, and we can, and if there's questions in the comments. But the bottom line is he is absolutely capable of paying every bill through this credit card. So as a result, if the balance is 6,600 and he immediately drops his income, all 6,200 of that month onto the credit card, it leaves a balance of $400. But what we're going to do then is pay those monthly payments from here. So let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Let's talk about month one. So again, it's got 6,200 in income. That income comes into his checking account. Normally the money goes here, but we're not. We're going directly from the bank into the debt tool. Remember, this debt tool had a balance of 6,600 on it. But when we drop that income on, that balance drops all the way down to 400. Which means he now has room of 6,800 left, and he still has his normal expenses, $2,495 in normal expenses. He has a mortgage of $1,895, and remember, we're paying the minimum payments on all other bills. This is the part where he didn't realize how much cash flow he had because he was paying extra. We're not paying extra on everything. We're paying all of our attention, our focus is only on this debt tool. So any extra dollars we have, notice I haven't talked about savings. I haven't talked about bonuses. I haven't talked about a tax return. But any extra dollars we have goes here. We only pay the minimums on those other debts. And so in doing so, once that's all said and done, 6,200 goes in, the expenses comes out, then the balance on that credit card jumps up to 5,381. And I'm not going to go into the specific months, but I'll share with you what from starting at month one looks like through the amount of time it takes to pay off that debt tool. Again, the focus of Velocity Banking is on the debt tool. So in the process of putting his income in at month zero, the minute he puts his income in, the balance on that credit card goes down from 6,600 down to 400. But then he has to pay bills in month one. When he pays those bills, the balance goes back up to 5,381. The difference between the original balance and where he is now, that difference is that cash flow. So the question you ask yourself is this: if your cash flow is 200, 300, 500, 1,000, or in this case, 1,219, if the balance is 6,600, how much of my cash flow every month, and how long would it take to pay down this balance to zero? Meaning, how many 1219s would it take to pay off 6,600? So how do you do that math? Well, if the balance is 6,600 and my cash flow is 1219, how many 1219s would it take to pay off 6,600? 6,600 divided by 1219 gives you 5.4. I just called it 5 months. So bottom line is, in 5 months, that balance is zero. Now, there's a few things that I didn't take into consideration. Interest rates. I am assuming, well, I'm not assuming, I am not taking into consideration what the current interest rate is, but here's what we know. We know the interest rate on this debt tool is what? Zero. So whatever I pay onto that debt tool, the balance is going to drop by that dollar amount because the interest on this specific debt tool is zero. So I'm not taking that into consideration, nor do I have to, because I've got this 0% interest rate for the next 22 months. We're 5 months in. So in 5 months, it takes 5 months to pay off the balance of this credit card. But at that 5-month mark, when this balance is now zero on this card, what do I do? What do I do with this room? Well, what I do with this room is I have to go find more debt. So the first debt I choose is that Wells Fargo card. I've got an empty Bank of America credit card with a credit limit of $7,200. And now I'm going to do a balance transfer. This is a 0% card for 24 months. How do 0% cards work? They allow you to do balance transfers, but you have to pay that 3% fee, right? I am not calculating that 3% fee, but we know there's a 3% charge in here, right? But the bottom line is that balance of that $4,200 Wells Fargo credit card, I am now going to move the entire balance from here and do a balance transfer, do a convenience check, call it whatever you like. I'm going to pay off this 4,200 and move that 4,200 to the balance on this 0% credit card for 22 months. And when I do that, what happens? Well, notice I'm still showing zero on my debt tool. Why is that? Well, if I get paid 6,200 for the month and I put 6,200 onto this credit card, what happens to that $4,200 balance that's now sitting on this credit card? Well, it goes to zero. And there's some arguments here. There's some arguments to be made here. Because can we at least agree that no one gets, well, some people do get paid monthly, but in most cases, 6,200 of Gill's income isn't all going into this debt tool at once. So he probably gets paid bi-weekly, which means half of this is going in the first 2 weeks of the month, and then the other half is going in the second 2 weeks. And in addition, most people don't pay bills one time a month. So which means half of his bills are going to be paid in the first half of the month. The second half of his bills are going to be paid on the second half of the month. But the bottom line is when his income goes into that debt tool, it's going to knock whatever the balance is down. And then I still have to pay bills from the debt tool, which would be those other expenses, the mortgage. And notice my minimum payment just dropped. How did my minimum payment drop? Well, it dropped because I paid off one of those bills. And when I paid off one of those bills, my minimum payments dropped, meaning the minimum payment on this 4,200 was $147 a month. So when I paid off the 4,200, I no longer owe 147, which means my minimum payments dropped from 591 down to 444. And when my minimum payments drop, guess what increased? This is my cash flow. So my cash flow increased by $147 when I pay off that Wells Fargo card. So which means because my cash flow increased, the rate, the amount of time it takes to pay off the new balance is going to now get faster. Because my cash flow is no longer $1,219. It's now $1,219 plus $147, which means the speed at which I'm able to pay off the balance on this card now increases. So let's look at months 5 through 8. So again, that 4,200, that the balance on the card was zero. But now when I add this Wells Fargo card, the balance goes back up to 4,200. When I dump all of my income in and I pay all the bills from it, there's a difference of that cash flow that lives on this card. Well, how much of this cash flow does it take to pay off this card that has $4,200 on it? Again, it's the same mathematical equation. 4,200 divided by the cash flow tells me how long it takes. 3.07 months, which means it takes 3 months for this 4,200 to be paid off and for the balance on this card to be zero. Just like it was the previous 3 months or previous 5 months. So it took another 3 months to pay off the next card. So once that card is paid off, what do I have to do? I got to go get more debt. And you may be asking, why am I taking these $4,000 debts? Why don't I combine a few? I can, but what I'm walking you through is the thought process. The thought process of one, where did the income come from to be able to pay off the debt? And what are the steps I take to be able to do so? And in addition to that, how much time does it take? One other thing to notice, let me come here. Let me go back for a minute. One other thing to notice about this process, come here, is what I'm also doing is I'm addressing, so we just addressed the Wells Fargo, right? And I'm addressing the Wells Fargo in that particular equation. I addressed the Wells Fargo at month 5. Can we agree that if I was paying the minimum payment on this Wells Fargo at month 5, the balance on the Wells Fargo card would have been less than 4,200? Can we agree on that? But I'm not taking that in consideration. What I am saying is we're paying the minimum on the cards and the balance never changes. So when we get to that card, if it's been 5 months, 8 months, 11 months, whatever that time frame is, it's the same balance that it was because all I've been doing is paying the bare minimum. So because of the interest rate, the balance doesn't change. You can argue that maybe it goes up, but what I didn't show is it's going down because I'm paying the minimum payment. Here's why I share this. Velocity banking is about the debt tool. You focus your attention here. It doesn't matter what's happening with these. What matters is how quickly can you pay off this debt tool? Because once you pay off the debt tool, you can then use it as leverage to pay off your other debts. So you focus your attention on the debt tool and you just pay the bare minimums on everything else, regardless of what happens to them. If the balance goes up, great, it goes up. The balance goes down, great, it goes down. But I'm focused my attention on just the debt tool, paying off the debt tool.
Well, and the truth is, by adding just a few more extra dollars, even though a lot of people say it does over time make a difference versus paying the minimum payment, when you were talking about the 3% transfer fee, that I think it's potato at this point. So
I agree.
Yeah, I think it just makes the math easier too when you're doing your own strategy to not try to calculate what the balance would be in 8 months, because it's all just icing on the cake if it's a better number than it was when you started, right?
Right. Not only that, it's what's the discipline that's required here? Consistency,
Right.
commitment. If I stay committed and I'm consistent about what it is I'm doing to this debt tool, it does not matter the number, which is why when we talk about home equity lines of credit and someone says, oh, but the home equity line of credit interest rate is 11%. Why would I give up a mortgage rate of 2.5% to pay a HELOC payment of 11? It's because the velocity of the dollar. If it's the velocity of the dollar that allows you to pay off this debt faster. And because you're paying off the debt faster than whatever that interest rate might be, it almost doesn't matter because you will never pay the end result of what that interest rate is. And that's what's happening here.
And this is why a lot of people lose out on deals too, because they're doing short math and they're not doing it all the way through to see what the outcome would be if they follow a plan. And again, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. So that's why it's important to understand what roads are possible so that you understand how to do the math forward. So I hope you guys find this valuable. And by the way, give it a like if you do.
Yep. So here we are on month 8. Let's go back a little bit. So here we are on month 8. What just happened? Well, we paid off the Wells Fargo in the span of 3 months. Span of 3 months, and we used our cash flow to do so. It took us 3 months to pay down that credit card from $4,200 down to 0. So here we are now in month 8. We're at month 8, and now we have to go find more debt. So again, we've got another credit card hanging out there. So there's this 4450. There's this Best Buy card that's almost maxed out. So what we're going to do is do another balance transfer, pay another 3% charge onto our 0% credit card, and pull this dollar amount over to our 0% card. And when we do that, what happens? Again, hopefully you see a pattern here. What happens is when I get paid that $6,200 and that $6,200 goes on to the balance of that card that had $4,450 on it, clearly $6,200 is more than $4,450. And I know I can hear it coming if it already hasn't come. If I put more than what I am allowed onto the credit card, one, I can't. And I go back to, remember, this is not a one-time $6,200 going in at one point in the month. It's split between weeks. And during those weeks, we're paying bills. I think we can agree if I put half in the first 2 weeks and I pay bills that first 2 weeks, and I put the second half in the second 2 weeks, and I pay my second half of bills in those second 2 weeks, I will be able to fit all $6,200 onto this card, and the balance will still end up being 0 because of this $4,450 that I'm paying off. But again, I still have to pay bills. Paying off the $2,495, which has not changed. Paying off the mortgage, which has not changed. But notice the minimum payments are still getting lower. Why? Not only did I pay off the Wells Fargo, but I've also paid off the Best Buy. And as a result, my cash flow increased. So I'm no longer paying that $125 a month in here, but the cash flow increased, which means it allows me to pay off my debt tool faster. So my cash flow just increased from wherever it was at month 8 up to $1,491. So what happens at the $1,491 mark? So again, credit card jumped up to $1,450. How many $1,491s does it take to pay off $1,450? It's a simple mathematical equation. Divide $4,450 by $1,491, that takes about 2.98 months. It takes about 3 months. So it's going to take me about 3 months to pay off this Best Buy card. But once I pay off this Best Buy card at month 11, I have to do what? Go find more debt. And so now I'm down to my Nordstrom's, Capital One, and PayPal card. Now I could have done these individually. I could have drawn this out. I could have. But I thought, it makes more sense to go ahead and group these together. So when you add this number together, and then again, take the 3% charge, or whatever it is, or the convenience check when you add it on to this credit card, there's enough room to be able to do it. So that doesn't matter. But when that's done, that's a total of 4750 that I'm now going to move from those credit cards onto the debt tool. But again, when I do that and my income goes on to the debt tool, I immediately pay this off. But I have to pay bills. And when I pay bills, the balance goes back up. It goes back up by the expenses, the mortgage, and notice the minimum payments just continue to get smaller. When you add up the Nordstrom card, the Capital One card, and the PayPal card, this total is now additional cash flow that's added to my original 1491, which means now my cash flow has gone up again.
Well, the original was negative 40.
There we
Remember
go.
that?
You're right. You're right. And so when I pay off the Nordstrom's, Capital One, and the PayPal, again, using the same math, how many months does it take to take 4750 down to zero if my cash flow is 1658? How about 2.86 months, which still is around 3 months? So it takes me another 3 months to pay off these 3 cards. And when I've done that, I am down to my last card. My last card is the American Express. I could have grouped the American Express in with the others, but I just chose not to. When I make that last transfer of the 2450 from this American Express card, I have now paid off all of my debt, but I still have to do velocity banking to bring my debt tool back to zero. So when in doing so, notice the only minimum payment left is what minimum payment? If you remember, the minimum payment on my debt tool was $66 a month. I'm still accounting for, even though it's zero, if I'm doing this right, the balance on my debt tool is zero when my statement date is taken. And when my statement date is taken, then hopefully I'm smart enough to allow that statement date to register at the point when I have zero balance on this card, which means I really don't even have $66 due. But let's just, for all intents and purposes, say we continue the $66 monthly payment, which is already included when I dump, or which is already paid for when my income goes onto this card. But at any rate, when I pick up the cash flow off this 2450 from the Amex card, that means my cash flow is now 1744. And so to your point, my cash flow has gone from negative 40, and it was negative 40 not because I don't have the income. It was negative 40 not because I need to go out and make more income, or I need to do anything other than adjust how money is being spent. And 9 times out of 10, when I'm talking to people, it's not velocity banking or it's not negative cash flow. It is how they view bills and debts being paid off. So it's just adjusting some of the thought process around what that looks like. Most of the time, there's absolutely no magic wand to fix whatever that problem might be. It's just understanding, one, what are your numbers? How much is going in? How much is coming out? Where is it specifically going? And what would happen if we focused our attention on one debt at a time? And so we take a look at this last month. I know it may be a little bit light because that was the last color that I had. So 2450 is what we're doing, 2450. And if my cash flow is 1744, how many 1744s does it take to pay off 2450? How about 1.5 months, 1.4 months to be exact. So in about 1.5 months, we've paid off that Amex, and ultimately, we've paid off all of our debts in a span of 15.5 months. So a little bit over 15 months it took us to pay off the debt using the income that he has. But if you remember his original goal was to get himself out of this situation. It took us about a year and a few months to do it. He's 42 years of age, which means he's still 43 once all of these are paid. And as I ask everyone, once you've paid off this debt, once you now have identified the positive cash flow that you didn't realize you had, what do you do with this information? Where do we go from here? How do you make sure you don't get yourself back into this situation? We called it Santa syndrome. We've paid this debt off in about a year and a few months. So how do we make sure we don't get back into the same situation next Christmas? Or better yet, where are you putting this cash flow now that you have it? Is it just going back into your savings account? Like, what are we actually doing? Are you focused on paying off your mortgage next? And so, again, if we go back to Gill's specific situation, his objective was to start generating or building wealth. So the thought process was, okay, what actions do we have to take to start generating or building that wealth?
Well, hold on one second. I'm gonna interrupt for just a moment, just because. Sorry,
Fire
guys.
hose,
We
machine
have,
gun.
yeah, we have some questions, and I just, before you move on to the now what,
Man,
I want to
can
make
you
sure that they
imagine
get.
though? What if we didn't have a producer? What if we didn't have someone to go, pause? Let's knock some of these questions out.
And they just be thinking of all the jokes, because I'm in the chat.
Because
We're in here having a good time.
and I'm in here.
Yeah, it's true. And well, you're a wealth of information. So I want to make sure, though, that when people get hung up on something, so if you're hung up on something, and even
Yeah,
if
let's
you're
talk about
watching, we know that there's also, I guess we could do this real quick. There's also 50% of our viewers tune
it.
in from the TV. And so if you are looking for, how do I ask questions? I'm watching you over here and I don't know how to ask questions. I don't know how to get in the chat. This is how you can do it if you're watching on TV or a different device. You can just scan this QR code and it will pull up a text message, and you can just text us, and then I'll read your question there. So there's that. Okay. I'll leave it up for just a moment. But
Still
let me
jumping in
go back
questions though.
here.
Let's do it.
Yeah, Gina says, is there a reason you're choosing to remain with the Bank of America card as a debt tool? I would think you would choose a different one to pay off and leave the 0% until the end.
Hmm.
It's a great question.
Yep. So if you let me go back to it real quick.
Yep.
If you want to
Hold on one
show it,
second.
kind of talk through that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say I'm a little bit. I don't think there's a such thing as a traditional way as it relates to velocity banking, but I was about to say I'm a little bit non-traditional in how I approach velocity banking. And here's all only thing that means is I don't consider myself a guru in this space. So my common sense won't allow me to choose a debt tool that has an interest rate higher than the bills I'm trying to pay. So let's just start there. And again, I've never heard this stated this way from someone else who does velocity or educates around velocity banking, but I myself struggle with using a debt tool. And here's what I mean. If the debt tool that we chose, let's say I didn't choose this Bank of America. And let's be clear, the reason I chose it was because of that right there. But let's say I didn't choose this. Which one would you like for me to choose? So let's look at balance versus limit. Which one has room? Which one would make sense to use based off the room that's available? And I would say all of these are fairly comparable, but maybe we choose the best buy. So what that means is I'm now going to use this 22% dollar to pay off this 31% dollar. I can wrap my head around that. That's not a problem. So I'm going to transfer this balance onto this card, use this 22% dollar to pay off the 31. I can do it all day long. I can justify it, not a problem. But I'm also then going to use this 22% dollar to pay off this 21% dollar. I struggle with that one a little bit only because I'm spending more money to pay off this dollar. But
When you don't have to.
right, I don't have to. And then 22% paying off the 24.9 and the 26.49, that's a no-brainer, right? Paying off both of those. But wait a minute. I'm going to spend 22% to pay off a 0% dollar. I would struggle all day right here. Like why would I spend more to pay off the 6600?
And I
Especially when it's a brand new card, 0% balance transfers, you know, balance transfers aren't free, but usually it goes like this. You can transfer the dollar or transfer the dollar amount at no cost, but there is a 3% transfer fee or there's a charge there, meaning it's coming into your account, not building any interest, but there is a 3% additive.
well, I think that if I'm Gina, I'm sitting watching going, no, why would you do that? That's not what I was saying. What I was saying was, after you're done paying off that card, then you just go and make the next one your debt tool. So
Yep.
instead of transferring to avoid the transfer fee, because that was another question here, it was, if you have a Bank of America card as overdraft protection, can you pay off the Capital One card from the bank account and avoid the 3% transfer fee? And there were a few questions around the transfer fee or comments around the transfer fee, just how to avoid that. And a lot of people getting caught up in that. So, why use one card as your debt tool versus maybe switching to a different card after you've already paid those off?
Yep.
So,
Many
for
ways to 10,
yeah, I think it's
right?
Gina's asking like, why wouldn't you attack all of the cards that have the highest interest rate and wait to pay off the ones that have zero? Gina, get in the chat and tell me if I have your back on that. Okay.
And here's my only take on that is I think I'm doing both.
Yeah.
Because I'm focused on the debt tool and because I'm using a low cost dollar to pay off the other debts. I believe what I'm doing is doing both. But is there a wrong answer here? I don't think there's a wrong answer here. Meaning, once I've paid this to zero, can I switch to my Nordstrom card to be my debt tool to pay off the? Absolutely, you can. The only reason I didn't was because, and I think someone said it, it was because my B of A is connected to my checking account. There is a way for me to, I'll call it, um, not be impacted by that transfer charge by simply paying it straight from the checking account. And because it's overdraft protection and I'm not getting hit with an overdraft fee, I can pay off that card right from the checking account by leaving it at zero because I have overdraft protection using the Bank of America credit card. So that's absolutely it, which is also, I go back to why I'm not showing any of those interest numbers, because to me, that's just semantics.
Okay. Can
Because I
you
have this 0% card and there's an opportunity to use it effectively, all of those things can be resolved pretty quickly. Which is also why I didn't change these balances as I was adding the minimum payments on a monthly basis. I go back to, there are many ways to 10. There are many ways to solve this problem. And I don't know that either any of those questions are wrong questions, or there's a wrong answer.
Well, I think referring to is the snowball method, and I
Right.
think that's whether you're doing avalanche or you're doing snowball, it's using leverage in different ways. Here's a perk to doing it this way, though, and I
Mhm.
think this is something that snowballers don't see. Because I see what you see, Gina. Gina says yes, you're right on. I was right in there. The thing that you can't see are the advantages and the perks of using one tool as your debt tool. For instance, this bank, we don't know what the Bank of America card, what perks or advantages this card has, but let's just say that you have cash back on your groceries or your gas or whatever the case is. Most people are using their debit card for these things. So go back to the beginning where it shows like just month one, even.
Oh, sorry, going the wrong way.
Yeah, go back to month one where it shows the bank, you're not putting any money in the bank. Yeah. Yep. To Nathan's point here about the overdraft protection, because this is, I think, a key factor in your debt tool, and being aware of the products that who you bank with matters, and being aware of the products that they offer you so that you can leverage them also matter. If you're having to put part of this money into part of this income into the
Right.
bank,
Here
right, and
and
pay
here,
your bills
right?
from there. We have shown examples, and with this same type of format and layout, where you have to, because they didn't have this type of setup and they weren't able to pay certain
Right.
bills.
You can't pay your mortgage from a
Right.
credit card, or you can't pay your car note from a credit card. That's okay. Then you leave that dollar amount here and you pay that bill here. The key to velocity banking, though, is where is the cash flow? Is the cash
Right.
flow sitting here, or is the cash flow sitting here? So, regardless of how the bills were paid, what's left over has to live here in order to drive the balance down.
Right. Because either way, you still have to eat. You still have to put gas in your car. You still have to do all of those things.
Right.
And if you're doing those things with your debit card, you are not getting, there's no benefit there. And you have to be able to have money in your debit card, in your account for your debit card to work. So therefore, that cash flow, as it's just sitting inside of your account, isn't working for you. Now that you've just given the bank a free loan, right? The bank is lending those dollars out because it's sitting there available. So once you've spent it, though, it's gone, right? I mean, that's kind of the point. The point here is that at minimum, wherever it's sitting, it should be working for you.
Right.
So that's one advantage. The second advantage is that you don't get points, you don't get any kind of perks when you're using your debit card. And a lot of people just like it clean like that. Look, well, why do I need to use my credit card for gas? I just use my debit card because I like to do that. However, if you add it up over the year, over the whole year, just your groceries alone. Let's say the majority of local grocery stores, I'm not talking about like Costco and Walmart, because sometimes you get lower points for that, but just the amount of points that you can get for like Kroger has many brands. You probably have a Kroger in your area, right? Aldi or something like that. I think our Hilton card is 7 points,
Yeah, something
five or
like that.
7 times points. Um, we have taken our family of 6 on full vacations just off of the points. That includes 2 rental cars just off of the points alone from grocery shopping through the year. Who doesn't want that? Why not? I mean, do you have to need a free vacation to appreciate one? No. A matter of fact, because we have so many points, we also are like some elite tier of member. We don't even know. We didn't even know that we were gold, platinum members or diamond members or whatever, right? But then you get there and they're like, oh, because you're a diamond member, you get and access to da 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 da. And if you were to have gone and booked that hotel, you wouldn't have gotten any of that access
Right.
to any of that stuff, right? And all we did was grocery shop like we
And I
normally
think
would.
And I think to Gina's point, a lot of these specific or cars that are specific to the company that they're with, Best Buy isn't necessarily like that. But how many of these cars can you actually use in other places?
Yeah.
Can you actually do other things with? So I think that's a good point as well.
And Carol has a good question. Does it make sense to pay a transfer fee for a card that does not charge interest? I don't believe Nordstrom charges interest. Just wondering. Hi,
Yeah,
everyone.
and I know very little about
Hey,
Nordstrom's
Carol.
in general. I was solely basing this off that 0% interest being charged for the next 22 months. Because my thought process was if I could get all of these bills paid off in 22 months or before the 22-month mark, I'm paying zero interest on any of that debt, any of those large dollar amounts. And yes, there is a transfer charge. Can I beat that transfer charge? Absolutely, I can. That was the reason I had it linked to the checking account. But my point is, if for whatever reason I don't make it, or my goal was, can I get this done in 22 months? Whereas if I was to use another card, I am still collecting interest every time I throw a balance onto that card. That interest is increasing as well.
Can you go back to the one with the payments though? Or I guess this
Mhm.
is fine because it just has like yeah, go back to the one with the payments.
Here.
Because when he came in, and this is very common for a lot of people too.
Very common.
When he came in, he was saying, "This is my debt, and it got worse over Christmas." But
Right.
here's the truth: a lot of people right around Christmas are still barely touching the debt that they or the mess that they made the Christmas before, right?
Right.
Or some people feel like I just paid off Christmas and now here it is again. We saw that inside of our group where people were like, oh, man, this is driving me crazy because I feel like I'm just financing Christmas every year and I just barely get out and then boop, here it is again. And it's almost like putting the holidays on layaway and you're just all year long, you're just paying it off.
Right.
And that, you know what? That's a whole nother rabbit hole. We're gonna skip that today. We're gonna skip that. But I do think that it is worth a conversation because where is the power of leveraging your cash flow is the topic actually. The point of all of this is if you're trading your time for money, what are you doing with your money? What are you doing with your time? In kind of in transitioning into the what now conversation, because I know
Hmm.
that's where we're going and I know that's
Hmm.
where everybody else wants to go. So I won't take up too much more time. It is the what's the goal conversation, because in 10 years, in 15 years, if we continue to do the same thing and expecting a different result, like one day, right? One day I'll be able to. We're going to continue justifying these moments. So this could have been because you decided, YOLO, we're only going to live once. I am taking my family on a vacation. I am going to spend the time and enjoy my family right now because none of us are promised tomorrow, right?
Right.
These could be any of those things, but the sacrifice that we think we're making and we're justifying sometimes is and is this or that. It's a this or that conversation where what we're showing you here is there is an opportunity to have this and that. And that's pretty much the thread through everything that we talk about is this and that.
Right.
You can have, you can pay off all of your debt and you can also go on vacation at the end of it, right? You can pay off all of your debt and you can still enjoy life and still go and do things and not feel like you're having to sacrifice or, you know, uh, be a Debbie Downer when somebody somebody even mentions spending a dollar because you're going, no, I'm doing velocity banking. That's not the point. The point is we're not like vibe killers over here. We are this and that. So it is, you can have it all. You just have to have a strategy. So
And
what do
spe-
you do?
right. And speaking of this and that, I keep looking at this dude, and so not only did you play me with the beard, but he also has great hair.
Oh, he's got gray hair. Yeah.
So you
Gil
played me twice. I
Gil's
get
got
it.
great hair.
I get it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? They've not really done characters like this in the illustrations. It's when I'm shopping around for a good character, you guys call in and you've got the you've got a vibe. I try to match that vibe.
But I
Like,
get it. I mean, my forehead is so large compared to his, you
no,
know?
we're not going to talk about
I mean, my beard doesn't connect. I mean, he
it.
got the
Mm-mm.
wave going to the side. I mean, golly, man.
Mm-mm.
I see how
Okay.
you do me. I see how you do
We're
me.
moving on.
It's all good.
There is
All
nothing
good.
wrong with you at all.
Oh, I didn't say anything was wrong with
Yeah,
me.
there is definitely nothing wrong. And Gil's got the hair, but and now Gil's got the hair. Now he's got the strategy.
So again, and what we were absolutely jumping into is the now what? Like what happens from here? And you guys know where I'm going with this. So here's the good part. And again, I had a specific goal, and that was let's give Gill what he wanted. His objective was to pay off debt. He's 42 years of age. I could have immediately jumped into the but let's peel this layer back. I get it. You want to get out of debt today. Magic wand. All the debt is gone. Then what? And let him go. Well, I want to travel. I want generational wealth. All of the normal answers that I normally get. And then we go, well, how are you accomplishing that goal today? What are you doing right now at 42 to be able to put yourself in a position so that you can have that generational wealth? And it's I'm, contributing to my normal traditional retirement account, my 401k. Okay, you're now retired. Does that 401k solve the problem that you have of being able to produce that generational wealth? Well, okay, it doesn't get me there. Then I go back to what are we doing today? How are you paying yourself first? And what does paying off this debt do with helping you hit that goal? So normally those are the paths that we go down. But what we did here was let's do what was asked. What was asked was I'm having um, withdrawals from Christmas around all of that money that I spent, and I need to get myself out of this situation. Luckily, based off the cash flow that we had identified, he should have one, never been in this position, and two, he was able to quickly get himself out in a little over a year. So he's not that much older, meaning he's still 43 years, still at 43 years of age. Now, is there a possibility or an opportunity to take a portion of this cash flow, or maybe even all of the cash flow, and put it to work? And that's kind of really what the next step is. It's can we put this dollar amount to work and put himself in a position to where it can start working for him.
Oh,
And
you want
so
me to?
again, going back to his age, he's now 43, building this out to 65. We can start with what would it look like if we put all 1744 to work? Well, by age 65, we're talking about $154,000 tax free for the rest of his life. He'd be a millionaire. What would he be able to do with this 1.3 million dollars in let me do that $1.3 million in cash value? How much leverage does he have to be if he still wanted to pay off his home or take trips or maybe accumulated other debt and pay off that debt? He has a vehicle that's generated about $1.3 million in cash flow, and on top of that, he has the ability to take $154,000 in income for the rest of his life. But that's at age 65. Let's back it down a little bit. So 43 years of age. Let's go to 60. What does it look like at age 60? Maybe he can't retire off 88, or maybe he can. But the bottom line is $88,944 off putting away $1,744 a month is pretty significant. And again, I'm not here to say use up all of your cash flow to do so. What if we back that down to $1,000? Because remember, he was putting $1,000 away in his Acorn account.
Yeah.
What if he just simply took the dollar amount that he was putting in his Acorn, where he had to manage that process, he had to put his money to work, he had to follow the Wall Street Trapper on Thursdays when he goes live to understand what actions we're going to take this week to be able to put us in a better position tomorrow. And that $1,000 a month would still put him in a solid position to have a vehicle that's working for him with no effort, with no I'll call it performance of or participation in the loss of the market. So there's many ways to 10. There's no wrong answers here, but the bottom line is, what do you do with that cash flow once you freed it up? Man, you're little.
I have questions. I know, because I'm trying to be
Tiny.
I'm trying to be out the way. I was gonna put just you and the calculator up there. Okay, well let me come over here.
Hi.
Hi. Let's get close. Okay, I have a question. I feel too close. Let me get just over here.
Why?
Well, I
Get
don't
back
know.
over here.
It's
Get back over
all right. Okay, here's my question.
here. You're blushing.
One, I am blushing. Here's my question. At 60, I still feel like that's not retiring early. So
I
he's
agree.
43. What happens? One, I don't know who this Wall Street Trapper is person.
Yeah, you do.
The point is that he has to manage it, but he also isn't going to have that hair for very long if he keeps in the casino.
Right.
So there's that, Gill. His real name's not Gill, by the way. We changed the names so that we're not telling people's business out here. But Gill, you might want to think about that, because everybody's talking about your hair. So there's that. What if he went to 53 and then he used the income to better fund, right? He can continue funding his policy. It just means that if he wanted to have some passive income, tax-free passive income, he could in 10 years.
And here's where we get into that reverse velocity banking discussion.
Right.
Because in essence, what you're saying is, maybe he can't retire, but how much of this $31,000 pays for his current bills? Like I'm going to call it debt free from the perspective of he doesn't have any huge credit card debt anymore. But
Right.
how much of this $31,000 can pay for that $24.95 that's consistent?
Right.
So if that 24, and I don't know here, I'll do it real quick. $24.95 times 12. $24.95 times 12 is $29,940. So that means his cable bill, his electric, Hulu, whatever those normal bills are, can now be paid tax-free from this vehicle. That's at age 53. So if you can pay your normal bills tax-free from this dollar amount, that means you now have $31,000 of your regular income that needs a job. You need to go put that $31,000 to work. So what would happen if you took this $31,000 that was normally being spent on regular expenses, you took this $31,000 and dumped that into a secure compound interest producing vehicle? How much of that $31,000 could be working for you between that age 53 to, let's say, age 65 or whatever the case may be? How much more income would that be? I think that's where you're headed with this. I don't know if it was.
It is. It's inflation. It's future proofing
That's
your
it.
financial situation, so that, yeah. But also, this is where your leverage is. So in 10 years from now, if you are thinking about getting into any type of investing situation, not like the casino, like the stock market. But if you are looking at obtaining assets such as real estate, like this weekend we were at a self-storage investing conference.
Mhm.
If these are the types of things that you are thinking of going into to create more passive income for yourself, we like mailbox money. And so this is our lane, right? Is having a diverse portfolio, but having leverage. That's really the key here
Right.
is leverage and knowing where it is. So that part's important. I I like being close to you over here. It just feels weird. We're usually on the
You just
opposite
lit up.
sides. Yeah, I am. Karen's late. She's like, "What are they doing over there? They're cuddling in the corner over here, Karen." I don't know. It was just a weird thing for me to be over there, so I came over here. Um,
It's where you
okay.
belong.
Yep. So let me see if we have any questions. Let's get back over here. Um, so not only do we talk about how Gill, who we agree in the comments that Gill needs to now he sees the power,
Hmm.
kill his Santa syndrome, right? And maybe what he'll say is like, hey kids, we can have presents today, or we can have $153,000 in tax-free income for the rest of our lives. What do you say we just create generational wealth? Those kids are like, no, hard pass. I'm going to take the presents. So that's why we have to make a plan. We have to make a strategy, and we have to start changing the conversations even
Right.
inside of our own household. And sometimes we have to do things that aren't comfortable. Some of us are having to steer the ship in a different direction because we weren't going this way in the beginning, and not everybody's on board. They're like, "Wait, where are we going now? I don't like it. It's not a vibe. I don't want to go there."
Right.
And that's okay. This is the direction that the ship is going. And so either they're going to dive off overboard, right, and swim themselves or build their own boat, or they have to come with you. And sometimes these conversations are not comfortable. We've talked about that before, and we've also had many people come back and talk about their experiences with trying to have those conversations. And it is a hard thing. It's a hard thing to have these conversations. I do want to share this one comment that Tish had shared. She
Mhm.
said, wow, looking back, I moved from feeling bound in the debt trap to velocity banking to financial peace in HELOC and Herskia in just 3 months. Remarkable. That's incredible. We have seen people have game changing initiatives within weeks to months. And
Right.
so if they can do it, you can too. We've seen this happen over and over again. And it's just information. That's all it is. That's all it
Yeah.
is. There's nothing, you can get everything you need right here.
And the thing
Everything you need.
is, it's a restructuring of how we're used to handling these normal things. Because notice, knowing what I know about Tish, um, there wasn't some brand new, I'll call it change in lifestyle. It was really redirecting what was already there. And in redirecting what was already there, you're placing yourself in a position where you now qualify for things that you didn't qualify for yesterday. And then in the midst of qualifying for those new things and understanding how to leverage those things in the midst of what it is you currently do, you're now placing yourself in a position to where you've got this dollar amount that you need to go put to. All she's doing is putting her money to work. All she's doing is going in and recruiting employees. She didn't have to get an LLC to do that. She didn't have to learn how to fix and flip homes to do that. All she did was take the cash flow she has and put it to work. She's leveraging banks and she's leveraging life insurance companies the same way those banks have been leveraging her since before she started this process.
That part. Yeah. What we didn't talk about with Gil is what he could have, like, there are still so many options within that strategy.
Oh,
One
no
of
doubt.
them one of them is just in that 15 months of him using that Bank of America card, could he have increased the balance? Could he have moved that up probably to 8 months to pay all that off in 8 months because he had the room to put
That's
it
it.
on that card?
That's it. That's it.
And
And I intentionally didn't bring, because what I love about examples like this, I know I'm intentionally leaving things out. And what I'm looking for is I'm looking for people to pick it up. I'm looking for people to ask, why didn't you do this? Because
okay,
what they're realizing is you can do this. These are actions that you can take. There is more leverage here. You can pay this off faster. You can do this better, which tells me you understand what's going on here.
Yeah, and the fact that he could pay all this off in 15 and a half months when he was still paying on last year's Christmas
That's
a
it.
year later,
That's it.
and he could have been paid that off too, right? So I think he wouldn't have. It was just continuing to add up, and especially because him assuming that paying those extra little bits on the uh, over the minimum payment was doing something
Right.
significant, and it could have been, but he's also putting $1,000 in an Acorn account, and we don't know how that was performing either. So he could have lost that $1,000 in that same month, and not had protection there. What I didn't see in his list of expenses either was
Mhm.
any life insurance,
Right.
and
Right.
that's really sad to see, where we're trying to do something to put ourselves in a better position. And if you do have kids, if you do have someone who depends on you, then what do they do if tomorrow they get the story or the version of what it is that you're trying to do? Of course, it's all based off of their experience. But what would they do? What would they do if tomorrow he's going, maybe I'll work towards that?
Right.
Whereas I think with the Skia, it's two birds with one, more like four birds with one stone. It's a lot. You know what do birds do to have,
Get
what did,
stoned.
what did
Why,
birds
why are we out
do?
here killing birds?
Yeah, why are we stoning birds? What in the world? Oh, I don't like that. No. We're 2024, we're taking that out.
We're
We're
no
not.
more. We're no longer stoning birds.
No,
We can
we're
get
not
birds
stoning birds
stoned.
anymore. All right. Well,
Let me do this real quick.
okay.
Wall Street Chapter. You did a video where you kind of help people understand kind of where I came from, and the video starts out with, "Do giraffes and zebras teach
Oh yeah,
lions?"
yeah. Well, Breakfast Club.
Right. That
Yeah.
gentleman talking is the Wall Street Trapper.
Oh, see, I just know him
You
as
know,
Breakfast Club.
no, the Breakfast Club is the show that he was on.
That's my point.
He's not a part of the Breakfast Club, dear. He's not a part of that's not Charlemagne the God. That's the Wall Street Trapper who was a guest on the
Well, they have him
Breakfast
on
Club.
there a lot. So,
Mhm.
for those of us who watch when he's on, it's because that's the point.
Rabbit
We
hole.
like it.
My bad. I apologize.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's get into it. Do we have any questions? If we don't, then I think I'm trying to see. If you do, then put a Q in front of it so that I can see it.
Yeah, one thing I want to make sure that isn't left here, because I know we get asked a lot about reverse velocity banking, and I will introduce that into more examples like this. But just so we're clear, if you think about velocity banking as this, I have these expenses that I have to pay on a regular basis. If at some point inside of my secure compound interest account, I can then pay those regular expenses with the leverage that I have grown inside of my secure compound interest account. Now, what do I do with that extra income? And I didn't even connect that dot here. And here's my point. Every example we do, when it relates to the then what and using a secure compound interest account to build wealth or whatever the case may be, every example is a reverse velocity banking opportunity, because all it starts with is, how much am I accumulating? How much cash value am I accumulating? And at what point can this dollar amount, as small as it might be, maybe it's not enough to retire, maybe it's not enough for generational wealth, but is it enough to simply pay my normal expenses? Because if it's enough to simply pay my normal expenses and I do that, what do I do with all of this income that's now left? I now have more income available to go put to work, which means I am now supercharging this vehicle even more. So I don't care what video you watch of ours, if it involves a secure compound interest account, every video has a reverse velocity banking component to it. It just is determining at what point can I use the cash value in this vehicle to simply pay my cell phone bill, simply pay for Netflix. Because if
Mm-hmm.
I can do that, that means I now have income available that I need to go get working. Moral of the story.
Facts. Gina says, on the SKIA, if you start drawing the annual income, does that affect future growth? It's
Yep,
a great
great
question.
question. So, and without pulling it up, I'll just have to use words. The moral of the story is when you start
We
taking
can pull it
income.
up.
Okay, let's go to it.
Let's get
Um,
into it.
So using this specific example where Gill is 43 years of age, he's putting away the full 1744 on a monthly basis into this vehicle, and he's in a position to where he can start taking this $31,000 tax free right now. And yeah, this $31,000 doesn't help him retire, but that $31,000 will absolutely pay for his expenses. So what's the like? How is this even possible? Well, if you look at the correlation between this number and this number, what's happening is this is a borrowed dollar amount. This is a leveraged dollar amount. Leverage is just simply saying I'm borrowing 31,000 from this dollar amount. Well, and we've done this many times, and I will absolutely do this again, just not in this example. How does this dollar amount come about? What's actually happening? Well, what's actually happening is your 209,000 that you contributed is making on average 7%. And in addition, this leveraged dollar amount, this 463,000, is also a dollar amount that's working for you. Meaning, again, we're leveraging the life insurance company. We're leveraging banks the way they've been leveraging us. This leveraged 463,000 is making you on average 3%. So 3% on this dollar amount, 7% on this dollar amount. In essence, you're making, and this is actually multiple 3% on this dollar amount. So what's happening is your 293,000 is making 13, 14, 15, 16% on an annual basis. Well, if I make 13% on this dollar amount and I'm taking income of 31,000 and this is approximately what, maybe 11%? So if I'm taking 11% distribution, but this dollar amount is making 13%, all I'm doing is living off the interest that I make, which means I'm not eating into this cash value at all. I'm living off the growth, and I'm living off just enough to where I am making more than I'm actually taking. So therefore, this number is even continuing to get larger, which means in the following year, if I allow this just to compound one more year, so from 53 to 54, that means that in the following year, I'm in a position to take even more. So I am not touching this cash value at all. So therefore, the income that I'm receiving here is not impacting what this cash value is, and which is why, God forbid, something happens to me, meaning I pass. This 523,000 that this account started out as has grown to the growth, the additional life insurance that I'm purchasing, along with the cash value, which means my total death benefit being two numbers, the life insurance I originally purchased and its growth, plus the cash value that is growing for me that I have not touched in taking this income. That's the reason why this death benefit of 2.4 million is what's available as my legacy, as my generational wealth, God forbid, if something were to happen to me. So to Angelique, to your point, that's where there are many birds that we are addressing with this topic. We're not necessarily killing them with any stones, but we're addressing many opportunities here to get your money working for you.
You gotta leave those birds alone. Leave those birds alone. Well, and we don't know that he won't increase his income, but what we do know is that what he's making now versus what he will need to make, being that he's 42, what
Right.
he will need to be making by the time he's, here, I'll come back on, by the time he's in retirement will be more than double for sure. When we looked at the inflation calculator, we know that 40 years, 30 years, matter of fact, 30 years was more than double. And it doesn't seem like a lot, right? The average
Right.
inflation rate being 3%, it doesn't seem like it would add up to that, but it does. And then there are things that we can't control, like things that are growing out of control,
Right.
are not following the inflation rate. Price of vehicles, for instance, right, is insane. Even used vehicles. Um, as you like to say, eggs. Eggs had their day, right?
Man.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, even depending on supply and demand, like toilet paper. Do you guys remember how much at one point we were paying for toilet paper and sanitizer? Whatever, that just, it doesn't matter. We don't have control over everything, but what we do have control over is how we strategize to future proof our um, our financial security. And
And
that's
structure.
right.
Strategize and structure.
Right.
Hmm.
Those are the things that we definitely can control. And I think what it comes down to is what is non-negotiable for you? What are the decisions that you will make because something is non-negotiable? I had asked many people about 2 years ago. I went on this kind of like discovery journey, and I was asking everybody, what's the framework that you use to make decisions? Just wanted to know, like when you're faced with a decision to make, what do you weigh it against? Like or do you weigh it against anything? Do you have like a set amount of rules when you go to make a decision? Like what is this process for people? Is it different or the same for everyone? And what I learned was some people said if it feels right, right? A lot of people
Hmm.
just said, I just base it off of how I'm feeling, like if it feels right. Okay. Well, how you feel about something could also be rooted down into your programming that got you there in the first place. So I don't, but okay, that's your process. Right, wrong, and different doesn't matter. Do you have a framework? So I was asking everybody this question. And what was interesting was there were people who were having conversations on how to make decisions, like in business, how to make decisions in negotiations with people, how to make decisions when you're pitching somebody. Like if you have a business and you have a client and you're trying to overcome objections, like they were having clubhouse rooms on these types of things. But when I asked them, how do you make decisions? They said, I do what's best for me in the situation. Like at the time, I do what's best for me. And as I started to kind of like collect all of this data, right, this information, it was just really, I guess, eye opening to realize that so many people are making decisions that impact their future without any framework, without any consideration for like, without doing the math over the next year or week, right?
Right. Right.
And we do this, but because so many other people are doing that, when you're having a conversation and somebody else goes like, I made the decision because it feels right. And they're just like, yeah, no, totally. I get it. Because everybody's been making decisions in this way. And then we go, well, if they can have a different outcome, then why can't I have a different outcome? And then we start to wonder like, well, what is wrong with me that my outcome is different than their outcome, right? What's different that they saw something or they were able to take advantage of an opportunity and I didn't even see that as a way of taking advantage of that opportunity, right?
Right.
I didn't even understand how to do that. We see this a lot when we go to these conferences because there's so many people that you blow their mind. They're coming out of this room like after every time it has to be a break by the time you're done. And it is
Because it's a
all
fire hose.
it is a fire hose, and they are literally like gasping. We tried to use the picture of the little girl with the hose blasting her in the face, just as a way of saying like, brace yourself. This is what's about to happen, right? But every time the feedback is the same. It's like I had no idea you could do that. Now they're trying to do the math on what is changing about how I was feeling about this information that I got before you came in. And I was feeling like maybe this wasn't possible for me, but now that I'm seeing that it is possible for me, and they're doing emotional and psychological math in the moment, that is difficult to walk through. I think it would be even better if somebody came in right after you to talk about your relationship with money and making decisions and feeling fearful when a new level gets unlocked, right?
Right.
Because it could mean that when you give them the key, you're literally giving them a key to a vault that is filled with money, right? That's what you do. You give people that. And they go, "Holy cow." Now, we talk a lot, and I don't know if you have it up. You do have it up. Matter of fact, bring it up. I'm going to go to the thing.
Use more
The
words.
the game board, the risk, the red and the blue game board. I'm going to check for questions. Oh, yeah, we got some.
You can give me a question while I'm doing it.
You guys, if you don't put this is why you have to put a Q if you're new here. It's because I can barely see. So the Q helps me to get in here and be able to see when there's a question. Oh, Janet, thank you so much. I've been binge watching all your videos. This is a game changer for 2024. I'm excited about getting out of debt and building wealth simultaneously. This and that. Yes, Janet, that's exactly what we've been talking about. Welcome. This and that. Get out of debt and build wealth. That's what's up. Okay, Charles says, after the health assessment, how long before the underwriters come back with an insurable determination?
So it kind of depends. A lot of that is due to timing and also your health. And what also happens, especially when I'm dealing with clients who are, I'll call it a little bit older, there's a lot of information that the underwriters are looking for. And so what they have to do is reach out to your primary care physician, or maybe you have multiple primary care physicians and they're looking for information. Well, you have a sense of urgency around making sure this process goes fast. The underwriters have a sense of urgency around making sure this process goes fast. But as they're reaching out to your primary care physician for information, does your primary care physician have that same sense of urgency? And so usually what's happening is they're waiting on information to come to them from a third party location who, it's been the holidays, people are off, it's just that sense of urgency around getting those things done. So sometimes we need that support from you as well in just pushing those third party, I'll call it entities along in assisting in this process. So that's just one variable that may be part of the reason why. And then in addition, let's say they find something. And so they have to dig more, I'll call it, let's say the doctor's office sent the information. And as they were going through the information, they find more stuff. And so they have to get follow-up results and information. And because of HIPAA, it's not as simple as, hey, Mr. Taylor, I need this specific information. Can you go get it? Can you provide it? Because of HIPAA, one, they can't share that with me. They can't have that conversation with you. It has to be a conversation between both those medical, I'll call it departments, to be able to have that discussion due to HIPAA. So there's many different factors here that could kind of cause that, but I'd say ultimately that's what it looks like. It's not a one size fits all. So it can vary anywhere from, I've had clients get approved in 3 days from the time they took their physical. And I've had clients get approved in 8 months. So it just really depends on the situation.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is, if you don't get, if there's something that impacts the process the first time, they can also go through the process again, though, right? It's not like,
right,
unless it's like a final thing that says, don't even bother because of this particular issue, then sometimes people go and improve whatever the issue is, then reapply again, right?
Right. And just so we're clear, I know what it is I'm looking for, but I can't find it.
It's on that same board?
It is not.
No, the board that we were just on.
Oh, you're talking about, I follow what you're saying now.
Yeah, the game board.
Okay.
And then the red version of it.
I got you.
Yeah. Janet has a question, so I'm going to bring that up. Regarding the MPI, what are the options for people who can't get life insurance due to illness? Because this is a thing. Some people don't qualify. You have to qualify for this particular vehicle. Janet, there are many ways to 10. And when we say many ways to 10, he usually doesn't explain what that means. But we've had, you know what? Let me see if I still have that in here. I do. Let's just play it real quick.
Let's go for
What's
it.
5 plus 5?
10.
What's 8 plus 2?
10.
Okay. What's 9 plus 1?
10.
Okay. What's 20 divided by 2?
10.
Okay. These are all the different ways in which we can get to 10. There is an infinite number of ways to get to 10. What is 10? It represents happiness. It represents financial freedom. It represents good health. It represents fulfillment. The problem I think that we have currently in society is there is a bunch of people who say their way to get to 10 is the only way to get to 10. It's wrong. I don't believe that for a moment now. I think the joy in life, the beauty in life, is you to find your own path towards 10. And be really wary when someone says this is the only way to get to 10. Because you ask 10 different people that and they'll show you 10 different ways like you experienced. And it's not even about asking 10 people and trying to find the through line. The thing is to try to find the you line. What's your line to 10?
I think there is benefit though in copying other people's recipes.
Oh, definitely.
Only take the advice of people, I feel, that have a level of credibility to it. Either that they've taught others that have then achieved the outcome that you want, or they've done it themselves and they've achieved that outcome, and maybe multiple times. If you're copying the recipe of someone that's never cooked the dish, your odds of that giving you a great outcome probably won't be that high.
So then I'm going to reshape what I said before. Find a group of people who are credible, have walked the talk and talked the walk and done both. Look at how they've gotten to 10. But then while you've got all the different formulas of how to get to 10, don't be afraid to add something yourself to that formula too. I think be courageous in having a part of that formula that you've put in.
That's so huge for me, because what we talk about on this channel is specifically what it is we're currently doing right now.
Right.
And it's not to say that this is what you should be doing. It is hopefully sparking a thought to, man, how can I accomplish something similar? And how does my situation fit into this one specifically? So what adjustments do I need to make so I can go make my own, find my own 10? And here's what we're looking for. This is why I love this community so much. Here's what we're looking for. We're looking for you to come back and go, I didn't do it that way. This is the way I did it. So
And
this
look
might
what
actually work for you as well.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
look at the results I got.
Exactly.
I think what makes this different is because you went and learned from a lot of people that said this is the only way.
Right.
And you said, okay, thank you so much for sharing that with me. And then you put the you line in there. And that's the part that I think, that's why in the process, I don't think you were very popular, because you were not agreeing with them that it's the only way. You were doing something that they didn't know was possible, that you could do with what they were experts at, right? And then you went, did you know, well, how else can I leverage this? Obviously, we don't know what we don't know, and I'm comfortable with that, but I'm looking for the information. So what else can I do with this if I can already do this with it?
Right.
And because they're not even using it in that way, they just wanted to tell you, you can't do that. Yeah, you can. They don't want you to do that because they feel less of an expert if you're doing something that they're not aware of about their own thing, right? So then you did that with 5 different vehicles and strategies and linked them all together like a puzzle. And when you did that, you created a machine that prints money for itself, whether or not you put another dollar in it or not. I was completely blown away. I tell people all the time, my first thought was especially with velocity banking, I was like, well, if we're gonna burn, we're gonna burn together. I don't know what this thing is. I was like, you seem really confident in this, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't like math. So you do all the math, and then let's just try it for a little bit, and then just see if it works, and then we'll reassess. We had gotten, let's see, when you first started, it was just with credit cards, right? And then you were like, oh, I got another credit card. I increased the limit. And in my mind, I'm going, why would you want to do that, right? Why would you want to do that? I had to learn just from the very beginning and the basics of everything, just like most of people who are watching. I was the same way. I was super skeptical. I was like, what are you doing? Guy, my love, please. I'm not the one who's the math person in this house, but the math is not mathing.
True story.
But then he was like, oh, like right now we just did the math on the HELOC. We're 15 years ahead of our mortgage.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
That's my new response to finding strategies and hacks and different ways of leveraging these systems, because you absolutely can use them in different ways and understanding how they work. And I think that's the part that makes us different, is that you understand how they work and how they can work together. And so therefore you can see things. But to your point, we want to know who's the next version of us, right? Who's the next version to take all of the strategies that we have and then say, oh, but did you know you could do this with it? We're not going to tell you, no, you can't. We're not going to feel threatened. We are not going to shut you down. We are welcoming these conversations because we can't see everything all the time. some of it happens to be that not everybody has the same opportunities. So, to the point of many ways to 10, our variables, I may have 6 and 4, right? And Donnell may have 2 and 7 and 1. But we don't know what a 9 looks like, right?
Right.
We've never had access to a 9. Or maybe we've not had access to 3 threes and a 1, right? So the variables that we all have are different, and the opportunities that we have access to are different too. Therefore, we can't possibly know everything about everything, right? So hearing your stories and hearing your feedback and having you guys come in and share, or even just call to just give an update like Tish did tonight. She was just like, 3 months, boom, game changer in my life. Like, just the information, and I put it into action. And you got to put it into action for it to work, right? But that's the part, is how we're going to learn and grow together. And we always say we grow farther and faster when we can grow together. So if you haven't joined our community, if you are been watching us and you have not joined in the chat, that's the whole purpose of joining in the chat, is to join other people on your journey and be able to share, ask questions too, and leverage others' experience.
Yeah, there was a question a little bit up that, and I kind of just I saw it and I think it went by, but it was related to. But what if I don't qualify for like a secure compound interest account? What are my options? And I think
Yeah.
what you're speaking to is exactly that. Everyone's path is different. So if you don't qualify, if you personally don't qualify for a secure compound interest account, do you have insurable interest? Is there someone else in your household that does? Can you own a policy on them? Maybe there's not someone else in your household that does. So maybe a secure compound interest account in general may not be for you. I don't know. But is there an opportunity to leverage a previous employer's plan? Or do you own a business? Do you own a business? And is there an opportunity to connect that business with some type of, I'll call it a self-directed retirement account that will allow you to be able to grow income at a rate by either tax deferring or putting Roth dollars into it and growing that outside of the market in a more of a secure environment? So there's many, I'll call it, there's many different avenues here. It's not just this is the one. This just happens to be one of the ones that we're using. And one of the things I thought about as you were mentioning, if we want to peel the layers back on how we got where we are, one of the things that kind of dawned on me as you were talking was related to velocity banking and infinite banking. I distinctly remember when I was sitting down with Carmen and Darius of Wealth Nation, filling out the information around my whole life policy that I purchased. And my comment to both of them was this: there is a relationship between velocity banking and infinite banking. And the conversation we were having was, no, there's not. Because if you look into the IBC criteria, it doesn't exist. But in truth, it's all a debt tool. And all we're doing is leveraging that debt tool to do other things. And in just kind of working through it, what have we found? There's absolutely a correlation to eliminating debt, increasing cash flow, using that cash flow in a vehicle that can also produce income, and then turning right around, leveraging that income to do what? Eliminate debt and generate wealth, which means there's a direct correlation to velocity banking. And my point is, these things evolve. And if we stand in the space there where there's only one way, if we stand in that space where this is the only path forward to a solution, that's when we get that, what is it? I almost said imposter syndrome. It is arrival syndrome, where,
Yeah.
and this is a Nelson Nash term, arrival syndrome, which says there's only one way to accomplish this goal, when in truth, things evolve.
And why did he put that in the book? Why did he put it in the book? Are the people talking about infinite banking even reading his book? He had to battle through so many people that said, no, you could not do infinite banking. And he had to first help them with their mindset of like, be open that there could be other solutions, right? Then all of a sudden, this is the only solution. Like, can you hear yourself? What? It doesn't make sense. And I just feel like there is a decision that is being made on where people are landing in this space, especially when it comes to financial, I'm not going to even say it's literacy, because it's really like a financial opinion, religion,
Conditioning.
belief.
Conditioning. And
No,
it
it's
goes
not
all the
even
way back to Saturday
conditioning.
morning cartoons. No, it's conditioning. It is sheep being bred to be sheep.
I don't know. I'm thinking back to Saturday morning cartoons now. I'm gonna just be honest.
Well, and what I mean by that is we've been taught, like if you go back to those Saturday morning cartoons, 9 times out of 10, rich people are bad and there's someone trying to save the poor people, which means poor people are good. And the best way Superman can stop Lex Luthor is by taking his money. What is Lex Luthor? He just happens to be a millionaire. He just happens to be some guy with money, and for some reason, that guy with money wants to end the world. That's not true. If you peel
Mm,
back the layers, 9 times out of 10, most of our Saturday morning cartoons, the good guys were poor. They came from these hard
okay.
upbringings and became great. And what were they going after? These people who had silver spoons in their mouth and had everything. We've been conditioned to believe that abundance is bad. And so when you start talking to people who I don't work, I don't no, I don't want credit cards. Credit cards mean I'm living beyond my means. I want to do
Mm,
everything with cash because that's what I've been conditioned to believe is true. Not, hey, you know what people with abundance do is they leverage debt. And they
mm,
leverage debt to generate more wealth. So we're not talking about go spend up the limit on this credit card and get yourself in a situation. It's, can you leverage these opportunities to actually help money grow for you? So what's happening
yeah.
is we are spending this time deprogramming people, and it's
Yeah.
it's hard, and it goes all the way back to the Saturday morning cartoon.
It's true because I hear a lot, a lot. I hear people say, I'm not trying to get rich. I don't need to be rich. If
I
that's
don't
not,
deserve to be rich.
that's what they're really saying, that they feel that way. But what they're actually, the words that they're using are, I don't need to be rich or anything. I just need enough, right? I just need enough. And what is enough? If you tell them, if you told somebody in 1983 that in order for them to maintain their $30,000 a year lifestyle, in 2023 they would need $130,000, 120 something thousand dollars just to maintain that same lifestyle, they would not have said, I just need enough. So 120,000. That would be like somebody who's making 100,000, $120,000 today saying, I don't need to be rich. I just need enough. So 400K should be a year should be good. They wouldn't even be able to put that in a sentence because that's just like way too much. I don't need that. What do you want to do? What are you going to do with all that money? Right.
Right.
But the
Right.
truth is, in 30 years, 40 years from now, you're going to be living the same lifestyle that you are today with that kind of money. And it's it's a hard and harsh reality to see people who worked their whole lives till they're 65, 70, 75, to now retire and realize that they are pinching pennies. They didn't get that freedom. They didn't get all of the things that they were promised to get. And the life that their parents told them that, or they told their kids that they could have, right? A lot of those kids are now hitting in their 40s and 50s and realizing, like, where's all the stuff? Where's all our stuff we were going to get?
Right.
Where's all the things where's all the stuff that was in Schoolhouse Rock, right? Where's all the songs about all the stuff we were supposed to do because it was going to be worth it? This is what you got to do because it's going to pay off in the end. And now we know better. So I'm going to just stop there because we have questions. Okay. Heartstring Speaks said, wouldn't he also save money from lower average daily balance? And
Yes.
she was talking about, they were talking about on each card.
Yes, absolutely. You are absolutely. And again, there are many things that I didn't touch on because at the end of the day, the math is the math. And really it was, how long would it take for us to be able to reduce this debt? And once we reduce this debt, what do we do from there? So you're
Yeah.
absolutely correct. Which means it just speeds up the time. Which is it 15 months or is it 12 months? Is it
Right.
11? So you're absolutely spot on.
Yeah, they're in the comments about the cartoons and whatnot, and we should bring our friend Cortland, friend fam,
Mhm.
Cortland, who has been instrumental in our lives, and to talk about the money in your mind.
Right. Your
Money in your,
relationship with money.
yeah.
What are some of those analogies that you've heard around money that you don't even know why you use them or where you heard them, but they are absolutely staples in your thought process when it comes to money?
Yeah. And man, when we went back, he had his exercise of like, think of your first memory of money when you
Right.
first realized what
Right.
money was, and you had to like write the whole thing out. And I was like, dang, what was it? I really had to think back. But golly, so many people shared, and it was the same thing for a lot of people. The reverse velocity banking strategy light bulb went off tonight. Wow, forgot about that other live. Thank you, Scott. And thanks for tuning in, by the way. It's always great to see you. Hope you're doing well. Scott, this is kind of what we're talking about. And this is why I wanted you to bring up that game board. So real quick, let's go over there.
Mm-hmm.
It's, well, now I'm over there, so I'm going to be looking this way. Okay, let's look over here. I'll be looking this way.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why this is important, is because we show this a lot. So first show the blue without the red. If you've tuned into us for a while, then you've seen this before, of course. Just the fact that when you have strategies like this, like the shoots and ladders game, you get to shoot down, right? You get to take the fast pass. You get this kind of VIP pass that while everybody else is going around the board, you get to cut the line and get those results faster, right? However, if your relationship with money, if your mindset is struggling with making decisions and struggling with how to see those opportunities, you will walk away from things that are those shoots, right? And then they become the opposite almost. If your decision making is misaligned and you need like an adjustment. I was
Well,
trying
not
to
only
say
that
something
though,
clever there, but it didn't come
but
out.
a lot of that is also education. So there's a healthy fear, right? We've been conditioned to believe that the way you buy a home is with a mortgage.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And we've seen all the horror stories around reverse mortgages and all of these and HELOCs being called due. So there's a healthy fear around, hey, I got my mortgage, I got my interest rate, I'm going to pay my mortgage off.
Assessing
Dave
risk.
Ramsey said, I'm going to get this 15-year mortgage and pay it off. But it's a mortgage. It's a mortgage. That's the only way you buy a home. We've been conditioned to believe that, conditioned to understand it. So there's a healthy fear around, wait a minute.
Right.
Dave Ramsey said nothing about a HELOC. No one said I could pay off my home in 5 to 7 years. 5 to 7 years. Like, this is a 30-year mortgage. This is a 15-year mortgage. If I put extra money into my mortgage, yeah, I could pay it off faster, but I don't have access to that. Why would I do that?
Yeah.
So a lot of this is around education as well. Like, how do you break these paradigms?
Oh.
It's repetitive education. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Here's one. Before you go on to the next point about it, this is the same one, and this is one that drives me crazy. When people say about whole life insurance and that you can have access to 90% of your funds, they think it's one of these blue chutes, right?
Right.
They're going
it's a quick way I can get here. I got a VIP pass to be
Right.
able to move to the next direction. Yes.
Right. But now scroll up
I'm gonna scroll up there. I don't know what you're saying.
to the red, the habits.
Let's scroll down, babe.
Oh, okay. This is what it actually is. No, it's
Oh.
not on. No, it's not on the thing. This is what it actually is. This red flag right here. You get the policy and you think that you're about to, you think that you're going to shoot down and you're going to skip steps to some degree because you have this access and now you're going to become your own bank. And the problem is that people who talk about IBC generally are not talking about exactly how to use it. Now, if you went to a real estate conference and they were going to teach you exactly how to buy a fix and flip, and that's what you were expecting, is to be able to walk out of there and use that information to go and purchase a property and make money on the deal, right? It was going to benefit you. The time, all of that was going to be worth it because there was some advantage there. There was some level up moment. The problem is that the concept is what's being sold and that you don't actually see what the benefit is or how to use it. So that doesn't matter to them, right? How you use it. No different than when you buy a TV, they're not telling you what shows to watch to get the best quality out of the thing. You could be watching cartoons and you didn't buy the majority of TV shows could be cartoons for your kids used on that TV. And do you care that they have it in 8D?
4K.
Yeah, 8K cartoons. No, you got it for you got it for whatever it is, but you still may not even calibrate it correctly to even get the best viewing experience, right? Here's my point, and you wouldn't even know. Here's my point. If you bought that TV and you went home and you started watching something and you were like, wait, I can't see anything. Wait, I can't hear anything. And you're thinking, well, maybe it's just, I'll wait. I'll wait for the TV to warm up. I'll wait. I'll keep waiting and I'll keep waiting. Then maybe I could use it. That is not what the expectation was, right? It's not what the expectation was. But if you came home and you went to go use it and they said, oh, no, you can't use it for 15 years really. If you do, it actually might break. It actually might break if you use this before 15 years. So you just keep having to make your payments on it. Just leave it there. Don't use it. Just keep making your payments. And then in like 10 or 15 years, then maybe you can use it like we were talking about all those movies and the great viewing experience. You would be like, what are you talking about? Why would I buy this thing, right? But if something were to happen to you and you needed to turn on the news because there was like an emergency, national emergency, you could turn it on then. You could like get the national emergency, right? Because that's what it's for. You could hook it up. You still have to pay for the cable. You still have to pay for all the channels. You still have to do all of that stuff. But if you really want to use it for what you bought it for, you really can't for 10 to 15 years. How does that make sense? But they will still, like it's a religion, still talk about this thing and not even say that part. And the reason why you don't hear them talking about strategies and how to use it is because a lot of them can't use theirs. Why? Because you have to wait 10 or 15 years for it to make sense. That drives me crazy. And that's why when people do try to use it, it's more like this, where instead of it being a benefit, instead of it being like chutes and ladders, instead of it being like a hack, now you're going backwards.
Opposite direction.
Right. Yeah. And that's my point, is that anytime you do have to use it, it's like an emergency and it's a setback and you are going backwards on the board. And no one's talking about that part, because if you leave it alone, because if you don't ever leverage it, because if it's only there for emergencies, because if you just hold on to the hope that was sold to you, right? Like we have Hope Hogan's out here just selling the hope. And if you hold on to that long enough, then you can hit those gray spaces and slow poke your way down to the end. But you don't even know what the outcome is going to be. You don't know what income you might have. You don't know what cash value you might have. You don't know.
So what do you do?
What do you do?
And that's where the education part comes into play.
Right.
Hopefully what you're doing is you're putting yourself in a position to where we can get as much detail as possible about this TV. We can get as much detail as possible about this whole life policy. We can get as much detail as possible about this IUL. We can get as much detail as possible around this annuity, around this 401k, around this IRA, around this HELOC, around this velocity banking. Get as much information as possible so that way at minimum we have everything available to us. Now it's our job to do the work. It's our job to peel back the layers, ask better questions around these vehicles. But if we can get access to this information to understand why a 90-10 designed whole life policy sounds good, but when I go to use it, what's happening is my policy is starting to implode, meaning the growth inside my policy is so poor that it doesn't break even for another 11, 12 years. And so therefore, when I do try to use this policy as income, I've impacted it so horribly in leveraging it to buy that car or whatever it was I did, that there's no really coming back from this. Versus if I would have just gotten a properly designed product to begin with, because I knew what questions to ask, because If you're trying to sell me something that doesn't break even before year 5, then I know I'm buying too much life insurance, and therefore the expense inside this product is far too much for me to be spending based off the dollar amount that I'm putting in. So therefore we need to either restructure, or I need to go to another product or talk to another individual that could design this properly. So
Right.
it goes back to, again, if we don't have the right questions to ask, if we don't understand what the right questions are to ask, we can get ourselves into a situation.
Yep. Well, speaking of questions, Janet says, I purchased life policies on my kids, but as a single mom, I want to ensure my kids are taken care of if something happens to me. So I definitely need options.
Yep.
And this is a great point, because if there is something, how about this? If there's something that you think you would not be approved for, and therefore you're thinking, I'm not even going to apply, I'm just going to look at what maybe some other options are, you'd be surprised. You should definitely apply. But to her point, she wants to make sure that her kids are taken care of if something were to happen to her. So, what are her options?
But let's peel that back. I purchased life insurance on my kids. But the concern is, I want to make sure my kids are taken care of if something happens to me, the parent. Me purchasing life insurance on my kids says something may happen to my kids. So if I want to make sure my kids are taken care of, I want to make sure that the vehicle that's on me is properly structured, so that God forbid something happens to me, those that income that's generated would take care of the kids, right? So
Well,
it's making sure we understand which direction this is absolutely going. But I also get this part. I also want my kids to be in a position to where, when they are adults, when they are older, they have a vehicle that's already generating income for them as well, which means when they become older, they have something they can leverage to be able to use as income at some point also. So it's understanding what the goal is and making sure we're addressing all of the factors associated with hitting that goal, because it's not just making sure my kids are taken care of if something happened to them, but it's
right.
also making sure my kids are taken care of if something happened to me. So
Yeah. Well, the other part is being, we always talk about structure matters
mhm,
greatly.
mhm.
And Janet, if you've not researched positioning yourself with a trust, I think that's probably like the tier of protection that you should already have in place,
Mhm.
especially as a single parent, because what that says is who your kids would be entrusted to would then have control over what they did or didn't
Yep.
get. Even if you had a life insurance policy, that could they would still assume control over that.
Let me peel
So
that back, because I know what you're saying. I just want to make sure it's clear. Not saying that what you're saying is not. I just want to make sure we peel it back. And what I mean by that is, if something were to happen to you, and we're talking about children who are minors,
right,
and yes, you have life insurance on yourself and your kids are taken care of if something happens to you. But the issue is, if they're minors and something happens to you, where is that dollar amount going, and how accessible will it be to those minors? If that isn't spelled out specifically in a trust, I would say a will is still end up going to probate. But if it's something that's not spelled out in a trust, meaning the trust is designed to hold whatever that income being generated is, whatever that death benefit might be. And while you're here, you get to dictate what the next 500 years would look like inside of a vehicle like a trust, which means, regardless of what happens to you, this trust, the instructions for this trust have already been laid out, and your kids will be taken care of. And doesn't matter any of the instances, because the trust can't be penetrated by whatever might be happening inside of the court system, or who your kids may end up with, or who may be taking care of your kids. God forbid something were to happen to you. So you're absolutely correct. A trust is important here because it allows you to be able to spell out those details and make sure that all of those bases are covered, regardless of what takes place. So you're right. That is, and I call that layers. I think there's layers to this. Maybe the first layer is making sure you have the right vehicle in place, structured properly, to be able to produce the income that you're wanting. And then the next step, the next stage, the next layer of that is making sure all of those products are rolling into a trust that can then dictate what the next 500 years looks like.
yeah, she said she can't get insured,
Mhm.
so that's part of it.
She can get a
And then
trust though.
and she said she just did get a trust.
Yeah, perfect.
Smart mama.
Boom, boom.
Yep.
That's it. That's it.
Yep. And I think there are a lot of, again, many ways to tend. So if it's not insurance based, leverage, then there's other forms of leverage out there. There's other passive investment, mailbox money type of opportunities where those can be rolled up into your trust too. And so if you see an opportunity like that, or you are into communities where you can get access to that, because a lot of it's who being able to jump in on an opportunity, just meeting a group of people may not be the same thing as if you are having a more of an intimate friendship relationship with investors where they go, hey, we got this deal, do you want to get in on this? And those can be game changers, right, Donnell?
Absolutely. And that, and also this comment right here brings up another thought, and that is, um,
Oh no, her next one.
I, well, yes. Oh no, yes. Oh, you're right. You're right. Hold on.
We did a video about this.
And here's the thing, because I think the comment that Nathan made after this is so important. You don't know what you don't know. And so a lot of times what's happening is we are trying to do what's best for our legacy. We're just trying to take care of our family. And we don't know what questions to necessarily ask at that moment.
Right.
But here's the key piece. You got a policy that in case something happened to you, your family was taken care of. Here's the positive out of all of that. You're still here. So what you bought was a life insurance policy, and you're absolutely still here. So therefore, yeah, the death benefit didn't pay out, and yeah, okay, this policy isn't structured the way you wanted it to be able to produce income, but because you're still here, you get to make that adjustment. Meaning, now that you know what you now can take some action to be able to put yourself in a position so you have the right policies to produce the right amount of income. And so, in essence, you bought a life insurance policy. And thank God you're still here, because now you get to make an adjustment to be able to, I'll call it, address it and fix it so that it can do what you're wanting it to do. So it's not that you did something wrong. It's not that anyone did anything wrong. It's just that you didn't know what you didn't know. And so therefore, now that you know it, it's now, what do I do at this moment to be able to take action to resolve or fix the issue so that I can start generating the income that I was expecting to generate? So it's maybe it's, you know what, I am going to allow these policies to lapse and get the right policy that I need. Or maybe it's, you know what, I understand where the opportunities are in this policy that I have. Maybe I'm just going to make sure I don't leverage it to put myself in a worse position, take advantage of the 4% growth that's consistently growing, the compound interest that is happening inside the policy. And I'm going to make sure I'm not putting any more additional or extra dollar amount into this policy so that I can transition over to the right vehicle that can produce what I need as well. So there's a few different answers here, a few different approaches here that may still allow you to be able to hit your goal, your true goal. So,
and if you haven't booked a call with Donnell, you'll help her read her illustrations so you can help her see what that would look like as a forecast, right?
is that a question or a statement? Because of course I will help her read a policy and kind of dig into those details. Matter of fact, I look at sometimes people will just randomly send me a policy. They haven't met with me. They just say, hey, this is the policy that I have. What are your thoughts? I do that all the time. So yeah, that's not a problem. And just so that everyone's aware, there's some, I'll call it, specific actions that you can take with your own policy just to simply see, is it efficient? And the first one is, when do you break even? Like if you're putting away $500 a month into a policy, $500 a month is $6,000 a year. When you look over there in the surrender value column or the cash value column, how much cash value do you have available at the end of that first year? Is it anywhere close to 6,000? More than likely, it's something less than that. Then okay, you've put another $500 a month in year two. That's a total of 12,000. When you look over there at that accumulation value column, how much of that 12,000 is actually working for you? Okay, it's probably something less than 12,000. But as you continue to put in this $6,000 every year, at what point does your policy say, I've put in these many years of 6,000 and I have at least that same dollar amount available or working for me? So if it's been 10 years and I've put in 60,000 total, do I at least have $60,000 available? Why is that even important? It's because we focus on uninterrupted, secure compound interest. Compound interest says, hey, this is the amount of time it takes for my money to double one time. So if your compound cycle is 10 years, that means it takes 20 years for you to double your money. If you've put in $60,000 in 10 years and you won't have 120,000 for 20 years, is that an efficient policy? Is that a policy that will allow me to take as income when I try to retire? Versus if the compound cycle inside your policy, maybe it takes 3 years for your money to double. That means every 3 years your money doubles. How much money would you have accumulated over those multiple 3-year compound cycles that would allow you to produce significant amount of money that would allow you to be able to retire or leverage or do infinite banking or whatever the opportunity would be? So understanding where you break even helps you understand how money is growing inside your policy. That's just one item. There's so many others. So you're right. If you want me to take a look at your policy, if you want to put time on my calendar to be able to kind of walk through, where you currently are and what some of those opportunities might be for you, it's a matter of jumping on the calendar. One thing that I'll also say though, if you're thinking about jumping on the calendar, there's also a fair amount of resources we offer to you for free to also get educated on a lot of this stuff as well. It's as simple as going to selfdirected.info and looking at some of the free resources that we offer to be able to answer a lot of the questions that you may already have. Like, what is the secure compound interest account this dude is talking about? Like, how is it possible to be able to produce this type of income? All of that has been fully laid out there for you. Like, how does this product compare to a whole life policy that I might have? All of that information is there for you as well. So if you're wanting to get on my calendar, please let's do so. But also use some of the free resources we have to get educated. So that way, when we talk, we're focused on what your goal is. When we talk, we're focused on how to get you to that WTF moment that you're looking for versus what is this product, if that makes sense. So,
Yep. Okay.
I'm
Charles
hungry,
says,
sweetheart.
yep, hold on. We got a couple more. Would a low credit score, negative credit information, or a recent Chapter 7, 11, or 13 prevent or severely affect participation in NPI or SKIA?
It could, but also it may not. So all of these are factors that play a role because here it is. What are you actually buying? In truth, whatever that dollar amount it is you're looking to contribute, what you're buying is a life insurance policy. So let's look at the company that's putting that life insurance policy on you. What you're saying to the life insurance company is you are the asset. We're not buying a car. We're not buying a house. Your person is the asset. So from the life insurance company's perspective, they're going, what is the quality of this asset that I'm buying? Are there holes in the roof? When I walk in the front door, are there gashes in the floorboard? Do I have to run in here and paint everything? Was there a hoarder in the house? Do I have to now empty this home? You are that home. You are that asset that's being purchased here, to be honest. And so what they're looking to do is they're trying to understand, is this asset worth the value that we're looking to put towards this asset? So is the asset healthy? Is the asset overweight? Or what medications is the asset taking? Does the asset have DUIs? Do they take drugs? What drugs do they take? How long have they been taking them? Have they had a DUI? Or is their license suspended? Like, there's so many factors here. Have they gone through Chapter 11? Because what is that telling the life insurance company? What the life insurance company is looking for is, how quickly will we make our money back on this asset? And so all of those factors determine how quickly the actuaries with that life insurance company has determined how quickly they will make that money back on you. And so what they're looking for is, what's the risk? How much of a risk are you? When I measure you, who have had a few bankruptcies, a DUI, credit score is poor, when I assess you against that individual who has great health, they're in the military, so they're physically fit. There's no issues or no medications that they're taking. They've never been through any type of bankruptcy or anything. So when we're comparing these two people, same age, which one would you be more likely to take a risk on? So that's what the life insurance company is doing. So you are the asset. So the better the asset, the more likely you are to get approved, the more likely you are for the life insurance company to take a chance on you, because in their mind, this is all about dollars and cents. They're going to make their money back faster. And so the key is, once you get approved, now it's time to leverage the life insurance company the way they think they're going to leverage us. This is all a money play. So all we're doing is structuring this policy so it's putting you in the best position to be able to build wealth and generate income. Because from the life insurance company's perspective, they've already taken a gamble. They believe you are going to outlive this policy. So therefore, they're going to make this compound interest on you all while you're contributing to it. And they're going to put that money to work and make more money off you than whatever that death benefit might be. But little do they know, we're structuring this such that cash value that's being generated, you are also going to leverage. You are also going to take advantage of this asset that they have taken a chance on, and you're going to leverage this same cash value to build wealth for yourself. So this is you betting on you. So all of those factors absolutely play a role. Will it prevent you from getting life insurance? I can't say. I'm not an underwriter. So that's not a role that I play. But what I can tell you is the best thing we can do is structure this policy so that you have the best possible chance to build the most amount of income possible. That's my job. My job as a licensed fiduciary, my job is to put you in the best position to build the most amount of wealth.
Boom. Okay. I need a sound for that. All right. We have just a couple more and some really great comments coming in. Okay. Let's play a game. How do you pronounce this? Shkashkis. Shay Shay.
Shay Shay's life. Shay Shay.
Shkashkis.
Shay Shay.
Shay Shay.
Shay Shay.
All right, I'm going with Shay Shay. That's probably not how it is.
Probably not at all.
We need to
probably something like Chi Chi.
Sound it out.
Chi Chi's life.
Chi Chi's. Shketskis.
I like Shay Shay.
Shketskis.
Girl, let's go now. Come on. I'm running out of steam. I'm ready to go eat.
All right. Should one reach out to a primary physician to give them the heads up that the insurance company will be calling them and asking health questions?
It varies because why? So first off, why would the life insurance company be reaching out to your primary care physician? They would only be reaching out if there was something in this application process that says they need to. So if you've been one of the ones who filled out the application and every question that I ask you, do you smoke, do you drink, do you do drugs, are you healthy? Every answer was no. 9 times out of 10, there's really no reason for them to reach out to your physician unless when they pull up your medical history, it contradicts what you put in your application. But if you filled out an application that says, yeah, I've got this health condition, I take this medication, I've been taking this medication for this period of time, there's no issues, everything is good. Well, that sounds great coming from you. Let's just reach out to their primary care physician and just confirm that one, this is the right medication, this is the right dosage, they have been taking it for this amount of time, and has there been any follow-ups? Have there been any other conditions that have that have arisen from this? Meaning, what is the status? All they're looking for is a status and/or an update, and then therefore we're dependent upon that physician. So you're right. Would it make sense for me to reach out to my primary care physician to say, hey, the underwriters may be calling you to get answer a few more questions around this condition that I have? That can absolutely help. But I say it's not a one size fits all type need. What I'd say is, because what happens is we tend to reach out to our clients and kind of update them on where they are in this process. And a lot of times we will request, hey, would you mind giving your primary care physician a call? Because this is the information that we're looking for. And really, this is the only piece that's kind of holding up this process. So again, it kind of varies.
Yeah. Dosage.
Yeah. I told you, man, I'm hungry, man. That's what that is. That's okay. A tired response.
Well, we're at the home stretch here. I also want to say, if you haven't filled out that form that says that people could request records, like those types of little things probably would make it a lot easier versus them having to force the issue. So there's that. Veronica says, hey, Veronica, she says, how do you feel about bill matching to your credit cards to freeze the credit card? Freezing the credit card.
I think that's a strategy that I know people have used. It's not a strategy that I've used, but I don't. When you said freeze the card, it made me think of something different. And here's what it made me think of.
I know what she's talking about. Instead of closing the account, now you have a zero balance. Now you're putting the bills on those cards so that it essentially, right? That's not freezing.
No.
What is that?
Well, again, what you the thought that came to me is there are some, because of the climate that we're in,
Mm-hmm.
especially people using velocity banking effectively. Like, let's say, take Gill, for instance. He's using the debt tool that he's using, which means the balance on it is going up, the balance is going, or it's going up, going down, going up, going down. And then as he plays off a debt, what's happening is these credit card companies are coming along and cutting the balance, or cutting the limit.
Yeah, right.
And so it's putting people in a position to where they're doing velocity banking and they're paying down the card. And every time they go to pay down this card, the limit gets cut, which puts them in a position to where they're over leveraged, or their DTI is impacted, or their credit score is impacted. There's a lot of that going on as well. And so that's kind of, when you said that, it kind of made me think of we are in a weird climate where there are these strategic actions that we need to take to kind of guard against some of these things. And what I think of when you say, how do you feel about bill matching to your credit cards to freeze the credit card? I see it as just another one of those steps to guard against some of these other actions that are counter to velocity banking. So I really don't have I'll call it a stance on what that looks like, because it's something that I've never done, nor have been asked about. But I don't doubt it's just another one of those actions that people are doing to kind of guard against some of these other things that are happening, because we are taking action and banks don't like it. We are
Yeah,
taking action and banks are going, whoa, wait a minute. They weren't supposed to pay this mortgage off that fast. Whoa, did
right.
you see how quickly that credit card debt went down? Uh-uh.
Or it's, wow, they paid it off, but then now they're back up, and this seems like a risk to us because their behavior for the past 2 years has not looked like they're doing strategy, right? So
Right.
this looks like a risk to us, and we were going to do risk assessment so that our books don't get all jacked up, right? So
Yeah.
it could also be on their end that they're making business decisions regardless of if it's in your favor or not, right? It's going to be for them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that going on. I think, how would I guard against any of that? I think staying in close contact with like, I talk to Bank of America a lot, and because I'm always wondering if how they view me. And so I want to make sure that I am not taking some action that looks negatively upon me. So I do that often as well. But that's not something that you want to do with some of these creditors out here either. So
How do you
relationships matter.
Okay, but the way you said it, how do you call in? You be like, "Hey guys, are we good? Like, are we how you feeling about me? Like, what does that look like to
Okay.
call into the bank?"
Okay. The lady that sold me my HELOC, she knows me when I call.
Okay.
Um, there are people who,
Wait,
but
wait, 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 wait. You said the lady that sold you the HELOC, you hunted her down. She's not even in the same state. Like, you had to call 14 people to find out where she was and tell them that no, you can do this. Find this lady that works at Bank of America. So it wasn't that you just walked in and
oh
talked to
no, I
this
didn't.
lady.
I
You
didn't.
hunted her down like a headhunter.
But me and
That's the
Grace are cool
truth.
now. I got
Yeah.
a direct line to Grace now.
Yeah.
I damn near know an MLS number by heart.
Yeah.
Not MLS. What is their number? Is not MLS. It's some other number that they have.
Yeah, it's
But
the number. Yeah. Gracie's number. Gracie's corner is a hot corner at Bank of America. I'm sure of it. Maybe we should have her on. All right. Enthusiastic Techie says, why come they don't teach this in high school?
easy. Who benefits? Who benefits from us not knowing this when we were juniors in high school and we were working for me, I was working at Busch Stadium getting tips off soda and popcorn and bringing home hundreds of bucks a game. Like, who benefits from us not having this information? Because the more we know, the more dangerous we are. The more we get to leverage the people that have been leveraging us. So that's why we don't know.
Even Nathan's like, yeah, bring her on. We need to have Grace's corner right here.
That would be kind of dope.
Yeah.
I think she could probably come on, but she couldn't come on as a Bank of America loan officer, right? I think that's the problem. It's the Bank of America part. It's not the Grace part.
So we give her a code name ahead of time, and then when we were like, the Eagle
Call
has
her Jackie
landed.
from Wells Fargo.
Eagle has landed. You guys know we're talking about Grace from Bank of America. Be like, her name is faith, which is close to the
I
eagle has
like it. I
landed.
like it. I like
Yeah.
it.
Okay, Novella, thank you so much for this feedback. We really love to know, are we making an impact? Is the beard connecting out there in these streets?
OMG.
Are, are things connecting? Is it making sense? Is it hitting home, and is it feeling like you can take action? I've been waiting.
I
I've been
know.
waiting to do
And
that.
people may think that I'm not quick on my feet because I got words. I got them. Like I got them. I got them right here on the hip. But I don't. I don't. But man, y'all be coming for me, man.
It's a
Man,
thing.
y'all be
It's a
coming for
thing.
me.
Beards connecting is a thing. It's a thing for guys, right? Like we have probably, they're like, good morning to all the men whose beards connect. And because maybe the men whose
So
aren't, they're going like,
disrespectful.
they're still in the mirror trying to figure it out.
Good morning. Wasn't it like? Isn't there
I
like
don't think they
Facebook
all need to
groups? Like,
connect. I don't
isn't there
think they
like
all need to connect.
like wasn't it last year or during COVID or something? People were joining the Facebook groups with the men who had beards or something like that, and
Yeah.
all of us men whose beards weren't connecting couldn't join. We had no idea what was going on in the
No
groups.
Shave November, you guys were like, killed
All
it.
patchy.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. So if you guys feel like things are connecting and we were giving valuable information, then like this. So be sure to subscribe, but share it out with somebody. Leave us a comment on the videos when you watch the videos. Give us feedback like, no, I like this other style better, or I want more of this, and then we'll know how we can better serve. Because the whole point here is to try to educate and get this information out there. But man, when we say that we really are looking for who is going to take this information and then go wrap it around whatever your opportunities are and show us what it is that you've done with that, that's how we're going to learn, because then somebody else is going to say, I didn't even know I could do that. That applies to me. I have that opportunity.
Right.
And that's how we're going to each one teach one, and we're going to grow farther and faster when we grow together, of course. And in order to do that, we have to be able to learn. And so we have a ton of free resources that we like to share. We have case studies in there. We have videos. We have 2 free books. We have a lot of frequently asked questions too. And then, of course, there's our Velocity Banking worksheet that's completely free. And and then we have our Facebook group when we just hit 1,000 in our group. Give it up for the group. So we're growing in there too on Facebook. And for those who aren't on Facebook, we respect that. It's just easier for us to do it there, of course, because we didn't have to build something. It was already built. However, we've had people join Facebook if they've never even joined, just to be able to be inside the group where they can ask questions or meet other people who are on the same journey that they are. We're even wondering if we might even have some self-directed singles out there. We might have a love connection. What is that? Batch velocity.
Miss AB
matching.
ain't playing. Why you playing? Miss AB ain't playing. Better watch out.
She ain't. She kills me with these posts. I laugh so hard. She's like, if you're Gill, come. Just saying, Cal. She's like, look, I'm just letting you know, goals are lining up. Okay. Hey, you don't ask. You don't know. You don't ask. You don't
Don't
get.
know if you don't ask. You're right. You're right.
That's
You're
right. And you don't know. We don't know. Cal or somebody else. These are all fake names, of course, but like those people, they could be like, for
Where's she at?
real?
Where's she
Yeah.
at?
Where's she at? Yeah.
Girl, let's get out of here.
Financially yoked.
Cut it out. Let's go. Cut it out.
That would be amazing. We're going to the wedding, by the way. If that happens inside the group, we're going. That's for sure. All right. Well, anyhow, I know it's getting late, so we won't hold everybody here. We like to end with, if you didn't come from a wealthy family.
You can make sure a wealthy family comes from you.
So stay tuned.
Stay protected.
stay focused.
Stay connected.
I messed up, didn't I?
No, you didn't.
My name's Angelique,
And I'm Donnell.
and our goal is to help you.
Get your beard connected.
And to do that, we have free resources. Our goal is to help you.
Get self-directed.
And to do
Have a good
that,
night.
we have all of these free resources that I will show you how to get in just a moment. So we will see you guys back here at Wednesday, 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and all the other standard times after that. That's facts. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you on Wednesday. Hey, before you go, we want to remind you that becoming fully self-directed means gaining complete control over your wealth, time, and freedom. It's not just an idea. It's a framework, a mindset, and the power to make informed decisions to secure your future. Being here means you're taking those steps, and we want to thank you for allowing us to guide you. We believe that we grow farther and faster when we grow together. So tune in next time and tell a friend to tell a friend. We've helped thousands of people just like you start their journey to financial freedom. And if they can do it, you can too. And if you're ready to learn more, we got you. Get a head start by grabbing these 2 free books. But how do they get them, Donnell?
Head over to my website where you'll have access to a few things. A ton of free resources, case studies, and over 100 5-star reviews from people just like you. And in 15 minutes, we can explore what's possible for you. So don't wait.
Invest in what you want, when you want.
But first, let us help you get
Get self-directed.